Good morning, and welcome to the LASERS Virtual Pre-Retirement Education Seminar. My name is Carlos Jones, and I'm a Retirement Benefits Specialist here at LASERS. This morning, my co-presenter, Wendy Kinchen, and we're going to discuss your benefits and retirement options with LASERS. This is a virtual format, so you, the attendee, cannot be seen or heard by the presenters or the other attendees. However, we do want you to get as much out of this presentation as you would if you were with us in person. Please take a moment to close out any programs that you currently have open on your desktop. This allows you to keep your focus on the presentation without distraction. If you're kicked out of the presentation, don't panic. You can always rejoin the presentation by going back to the original link that was included in the email. We're going to cover a lot of information with you this morning. If you have a question, be sure to submit it to us using the Q&A tab at the top right. The presenter will not be able to see the questions as they're received, but we do have a moderator for those questions. When you submit a question, it does not appear on the screen to everyone. Instead, it's going to be submitted directly to the moderator, who will make sure your question gets answered. We'll try to answer questions as they're received, but we often receive questions about a topic that's discussed later in the presentation, so sometimes we may wait to answer those questions when we get to that specific topic. Please do not submit any questions that include your Social Security number. We may not be able to answer questions specific to you through this forum. Thank you for attending our virtual prep seminar. At this time, I'm going to introduce you to my co-presenter, Wendy Kinchen.
Good morning. Thank you, Carlos. I am Wendy Kinchen. I'm a retirement benefits supervisor here at LASERS. Like Carlos said, we want to welcome you here this morning to the LASERS prep. We are very excited that you're here. We're going to be here for the entire morning, so get ready. Close down everything like Carlos said. Take this time to get some information, make this about you. So Carlos talked about that question and answer tab. Let's go ahead and use that question and answer tab. I know a lot of you had to sign in anonymously, and if you did, please go open that question and answer tab, and where it says name, type your name and press enter, and that way we can make sure that you get credit for this morning's attendance. No one will be able to see it except for Carlos and myself, so it's not going to go public. But enter your name where it says name, press enter. We want to make sure that we give you credit. Also, just to kind of get used to using that tab, maybe there's a rumor that you've heard about LASERS, a coworker has told you, or maybe there's a specific topic that you're here to learn about this morning. If that's the case, go ahead and type it in that question and answer tab, submit it to us, and we'll just go over it. We'll kind of talk about it this morning. We want to make sure that we cover all the topics, answer everyone's questions. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with our presentation. And yes, I don't know why it does this, but it does it to me every time. You are attending the PREP, the Pre-Education Retirement Program. You have met myself and Carlos. When we sent you the email invite, it did include some documents. We included the PowerPoint presentation. We also included some Social Security fact sheets, along with an RSEA brochure and presentation for the LASERS self-directed plan and the Louisiana Deferred Compensation Plan. Again, this is the virtual format. You cannot be seen or heard by myself, Carlos, or any of the other attendees. If you want to follow along, make sure you have access to that presentation. Remove distractions. If you are kicked out, you can rejoin. Questions and comments should be submitted through that question and answer tab. You can always pause, rewind, go live. These are just some of the topics that we will cover today. We do use a lot of acronyms here at LASERS, and this is just a quick, short list of some of the most common acronyms used. We only have one office. We are in Baton Rouge. You can contact our office by calling our local number or our toll-free number. I can assure you that you will get the same person, whichever number you call. You can also submit to us through AskLASERS member at lasersonline.org. Be cautious when discussing retirement with your coworkers. I know that it's going to come up often, but look at our little graphic over there on the right. All of our plans are different, and that's right. Just in this morning's presentation, we have members representing 4 different retirement plans. So if you're discussing retirement with your coworker and you're in one plan and they're in another, then it may get confusing, and you may feel very confident that you know you're talking about, and they may be confident, and it's that what you're discussing is right for both of you, but not for each other. Hopefully, by the time this presentation is over this morning, you are going to know, if you don't already, which retirement plan you're in and when your first eligible date for retirement is. You can attend a variety of different presentations throughout your career. We do have some educational videos on our website. We also have our Members Guide to Retirement on the website. You can access this through the resources. And this is a book. It is the handbook, so to speak. Its subject matter is broken down by chapter. It's not meant to be read cover to cover. Not every chapter will pertain to you, but there's a lot of clear answers to a lot of questions. And if you want to know about a particular subject, you just go to the handbook, you open that chapter, go directly to that chapter, and chances are the answer is in there. Another thing that I love about the Members Guide is that it also has a lot of examples. So if you have a question about how is leave calculated, well, you can go and you can read, but it will also give you an example, and it will show you, and it breaks it down so that you can see it. What do you plan to do when you retire? It's never too early, I say, or too late to plan for retirement. I know when you're 25, it's hard to imagine yourself at 60, right? You're like, oh, I'll never be there. I'll never retire. But then for those of us closer to 60, we're like, wow, it's fast approaching. I know sometimes I'll sit across from a member and they're eligible to retire in a year, and they're like, Wendy, I've not planned. I don't know anything. Well, it's not too late. And one thing that you're doing is you're here this morning, right? This is part of that planning. This is educating yourself. So what do you plan to do? Start planning. It's never too early or too late. Make a list of your hobbies. We have a retirement readiness section on our website. We like to quote Mr. Harry Emerson Fosdick, don't simply retire from something, have something to retire to. Figure out what you want to do in retirement and go ahead, and before you actually retire, set that plan in place. That way, once retirement comes, well, that part of your life is gone, but you're picking up on a new part. Like I said, Lasers has a website. There's a lot of valuable information. These are just some of the topics that you can go and check out. In December of 2020, so a year ago, December of 2020. So a little bit over a year ago, we did roll out a new online account management system. It is called AskLASERS, and it allows you to now check the status of applications. You can request documents. You can upload documents. You can utilize our message center. You can request an appointment. So once you are within 18 months of retirement eligibility, you are allowed to have a 1-hour one-on-one appointment with a Lasers educator where you discuss the information as it pertains specifically to you. We are offering those meetings. We are offering them now virtually. So you and the educator can meet over the website virtually, where you can both see each other, communicate. It's the same as if you come into the office, which you can do. We're also doing those appointments by phone. To gain access to your information on AskLASERS, you will have to create an account. And if you had ever created an account to the old member self-service, that login information is no longer going to work. You will have to go in and create a new account. You will have to set up a multi-factor authentication. And once you do this, you can access your account anytime from anywhere, from any device. One little key that I want to give you is when you go to create your account in AskLASERS, it is going to ask for an email. I want to encourage you to use your personal email, not your work email. And that is because once you set your account up with an email, you cannot change it. And so if you go ahead and retire, or maybe you switch jobs, you lose the email that you had at your job, then you will no longer have access to your MyLasers and you can't change it. You will have to go through having it reset. So when you go and you create your account, I would want to encourage you to definitely set that up with your personal email. Once you create your account, you can go and you can sign in. You go and you enter the email that you use to register. You'll enter your password, and then you'll click this button here that says send code. We will send a code to you via text or voice, whichever you request. You'll enter that code. That's that multi-factor authentication. That's that second step or level of security. You'll enter that, and you will then have access to your information. When I say access to your information, I mean access to the information that Lasers has for you here. A lot of times people will ask, is Leo and Lasers the same? No, it's not. So if you wanted to see how much money have you contributed into Lasers, if you want to access your account and run your self-estimates, those are all things that you can do on the website through your MyLasers account. Also, again, I said we do have a video library. Our public information department has taken some time out to create some really great videos to, again, that has broken subject matter down. So if you didn't want to read about it, but you wanted to go and watch a short video, you certainly could do that. So that's just kind of an introduction to our website and how you can access your account. This is where I'll go ahead and I'll take a short pause. I'll stop and I'll check in with Carlos and I'll see, Carlos, did we have any questions? Did we have any comments, anything anybody's wanting to know about specifically?
Yeah, Wendy, we did have a few questions. We had a member who wants to confirm their first eligible date to retire. And then we also have a couple of members who are interested in hearing about the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset, those Social Security laws that may impact your retirement pension.
Perfect. So I think, Carlos, you're about to talk to us a little bit about what Lasers is, how that benefit is calculated. And then as soon as he's done with that, I'm going to talk about the different specific retirement plans. When I discuss those plans, that will talk specifically about your eligibility. So based on that information, you should be able to know exactly when your first eligible date is. And yes, those laws, those Social Security laws, the government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision, we are going to at the end of this presentation, before we leave, we're going to play a short video that does discuss those two laws in a little bit more detail. You also have those fact sheets that you can review. So definitely we're going to get that covered.
All right, thank you, Wendy. We also had a member who talked about they needed a little bit more information about airtime, and they wanted to know how much does it cost to purchase airtime in Lasers.
So purchases, airtime, we're going to definitely talk about purchases after the break this morning, talk about how you go about getting an invoice, different ways that you can pay for that. As to the calculation, unfortunately, it's different for everyone. It's based on several different factors, such as what is going to be the cost to the system based on your specific situation. So we're not able to give even, a guesstimate of what the cost would be. You do have to request that invoice.
Thank you, Wendy. And then finally, the final question is that we had a member who said their coworker told them that it's best to retire in a month that has 3 pay periods. Why do you think that? Why did they tell me that, or why is it better? Is it better to retire in a month that has 3 pay periods?
That's a great rumor that we hear often, and Carlos is about to talk to us about the way that your retirement benefit is calculated, and in doing so, this question might make a little bit more sense. We are going to use the average salary, and when you retire in a month that has 3 pay periods, then sometimes that can make that average salary a little bit higher. However, if you are eligible to retire 3 or 4 months prior to that 3 pay period month, it may not be worth it. And it'll make a little bit more sense when Carlos talks about how exactly that benefit is calculated. So Carlos, if you're ready and we don't have any more questions, you want to go ahead and talk to us?
All right, thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm here to discuss what is lasers, or a more specific question: why am I paying my money to lasers? Right. So if you work in the private sector any amount of time, you're familiar with private sector style retirements, things like 401ks or IRAs. Those are what we call defined contribution plans. Lasers is a little bit different. We're a government defined benefit plan, right? We're under Section 401A of the IRS code. We were established by the legislature in 1946. Membership is mandatory for most state employees. We are governed by a board of trustees. And then the biggest benefit in those private sector defined contribution plans and your pension here at Lasers is that last bullet that you see. And that last bullet reads that benefits are guaranteed for life upon retirement. So how are we funded? We're funded the exact same way as those private sector retirements. Your agency, your employer, contributes, right? You as the employee, you contribute, right? So at 8%, that's 7.5%, that's being withheld from your paycheck each pay period. Those are your contributions to the retirement system. And just like the private sector retirements, we invest that money for you. We invest to pay you those lifetime benefits, right? But unlike the private sector retirement, right, the money that you contribute, that doesn't have any impact on the amount of your retirement benefit, right? We use this formula here. I like to say that this formula helps define your defined benefit. We use this formula to determine your lifetime benefit amount, right? And so we'll define each of these terms individually, but let's just go over the entire formula right now. So we multiply your years of service credit times something called your accrual rate times something called your final average compensation. I like to refer to that as your average salary. And then that formula provides us with your lifetime maximum monthly retirement benefit. So let's start off by defining service credit, right? So once you're enrolled into Lasers and you're going to start paying contributions to the retirement system, right? That's how you earn years in the retirement system, by paying those employee contributions. Service credit or service credit years, that is the total of all earned, transferred, reciprocated, and purchased service credit used in determining both your eligibility for retirement and used to compute your benefit. And you earn service credit in two types. So there's two types of retirement years that you earn, right? There's a type that makes you eligible, what we call eligibility. So when we discuss the different retirement plans, Wendy's gonna tell you that there's so many years needed in this particular retirement plan to be eligible for retirement, right? That's one type of service credit. And then the other type of service credit is what we call computation. So if you remember that formula that we did, right, where that defines how much you're going to receive in retirement, that's going to be that's how we actually determine how much you're going to receive through the computation, or the full term is benefit computation, right? So how do we determine your service credit? Well, so we determine your service credit by dividing your actual earnings by your full-time base pay. When reviewing your actual earnings, we typically do not include overtime pay, shift differential, per diem, or premium pay. And so if you're on overtime, you'll notice that they're not withholding, your agency doesn't withhold any contributions from that overtime pay, because that time doesn't go towards your total service credit here at Lasers. Right. Now, employee contributions must be paid in order to earn service credit. So a lot of times we'll see members who may have started in their position. Maybe they were a job appointment, right? And they weren't eligible to contribute to the retirement system at that point. Well, because they weren't contributing to the retirement system, even though they were employed, then they're not earning service credit in the system, because you have to pay the contributions to earn service credit, to earn years towards your retirement. So we use this chart here to actually help us calculate your service credit, right? This chart goes a long way in helping us determine your service credit. The days in this chart are broken down into tenths. They typically tend to coincide with the percentage of your base salary that we anticipate you earning by that point during the year. So as an example, if you're working from January 1 through July 14th, right? You've worked about 60% of the calendar year, earning about 60% of your base salary. And then that's what you've earned, or that's what we anticipate you to earn as far as service credit, right? The 60% or the 6/10. But there is an exception to this chart, and the exception tends to work in your favor, right? And that exception is that we always round the service credit up to benefit you, the member. Right. So as an example of us rounding, let's hypothetically say that somebody wanted to retire on August 1st, right? At any point during the year. They're working full time from January 1 through August 1st, and they want to retire. Right. Well, that's going to put us in between the July 14th, where we can potentially earn 6/10 of service credit, and the August 14th, where we can potentially earn 7/10 of service credit. Right. Because we round service credit up to determine your service credit, if you've earned, or if the member has earned 60% of their base salary or higher, we would actually round you up to the higher 10th without you actually having to work till August 14th. And because of that unique rounding feature, that's one of the reasons why members don't actually have to work a full year to earn a full year of service credit, because we round that service credit up. Now, because of that rounding feature, that may result in some members being eligible to retire a lot earlier, or first being eligible to retire a lot earlier than when they started state service all those years ago, right? Now, it is your responsibility to both be aware of your first eligible date to retire, but we're going to help you, and there's several ways that we do help you. Right? So there's several ways that you can monitor your service credit. Wendy already mentioned one of them, right? And that's the most common way, and that's to create a MyLASERS account. Go online, create that MyLASERS account. We encourage you to do so if you haven't already done so. When you're creating that account, you can both view your service credit history with us, and then also you can view your service credit history with us, and then also you can be aware of when your first eligible date to retire is, right? Because that's going to be listed on your MyLASERS account. Another way is that we always send you an annual statement. So at the first quarter of every year, we're going to either send you one in the mail or online if you've opted for the paperless route. If you're within 3 years of being eligible to retire, right, we're going to show your first eligible date to retire on that annual statement, as well as you're going to receive an unaudited benefit estimate on that annual statement. Now, whether you're viewing your service credit online or on your annual statement, if you notice a discrepancy, contact your Human Resources Department as quickly as possible so your HR department can contact us so we can have those discrepancies corrected for you. So the second factor that we use to determine your retirement benefit is something called the accrual rate. The accrual rate is the percentage that is earned for every year of service credit used in the calculation of monthly retirement benefits. The accrual rate is based on your retirement plan, right? So most of us who've registered for this seminar, we all have a 2.5% accrual rate. What that means is, right, is that for every year of service credit that we earn, we're going to receive 2.5% of the next factor, right? Now, I refer to this factor as the average salary, but more specifically, it's called our final average compensation. And the final average compensation is based on your retirement plan. It is the average earned compensation received during your 36 or 60 highest successive months of employment, or your highest joint months of employment if your service was interrupted. So as long as you remember that formula, you can define your defined benefit here at Lasers, right? Your service credit, years of service credit, multiplied by your accrual rate, multiplied by your average salary or your final average compensation, and then that's going to provide us with your maximum lifetime monthly retirement benefit. This is a great stopping off point for me to go to Wendy and see if we had any questions about anything that we've covered so far.
Yes, Carlos, we had a couple of questions. So I have someone who says, if an employee used to work at LSU, is it possible for them to transfer their years of service to add to the current number of years of service?
Okay, that's a great question. And it depends on what retirement plan that you're in. So if you worked at LSU and you paid into a specific retirement plan, right? Maybe you paid into the teacher's retirement system, then you can transfer those years of service over to us here at Lasers, right? So if you paid into another retirement system, you can. If you paid into a defined contribution plan like a 401k or an IRA, then you cannot directly transfer those monies into lasers. But we're going to discuss airtime or purchasing years of service, where you can purchase additional years of service in lasers and then use those funds in a defined contribution plan to pay for that purchase. And we'll look a little bit further into that when we just get into that purchase of service chapter.
Okay, and then someone has asked that they always heard it was the last 36 or 60 months of salary that was calculated.
Okay, great question. So typically, typically because we tend to progress throughout our career, right? Our last 36 or our last 60 months tend to also be our highest 60 months of salary or 36 months of salary, right? But that's not always the case. Right. So whenever we're calculating your retirement benefit, regardless if it's your first 36 months, your last 36 months, or at some point in the middle, we're always going to use your highest success of 36 months of salary to determine your retirement benefit. So it's not always the last 36 months, but most of the times it will be.
And so can you say if it is better to retire in a month that has 3 pay periods or not?
Well, we can. So typically, if we're a bi-weekly paid employee, right, some months we get paid twice, and then other months we're paid 3 times. So when we're averaging out your highest 36 months of salary, right, if you're paid 3 times in your last month of working, right, then that's going to boost that average for you. So that's why, like Wendy discussed with us earlier, that's why that retiring at the end of a month that has 3 pay periods can boost our average salary, boosting our final average compensation, and then boost the amount that we can receive in a retirement benefit.
And then someone wrote, does it boost it a lot, or is there any way to know how much it would boost it?
There is a way to know, and the way to know is to get a benefit estimate from us. Yeah, or generate one online, and you can see that difference. Yeah, you can see that difference in the online calculator.
Okay, and that looks like all of our questions.
All right, thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. So I'm going to now talk to you about the retirement eligibility for rank and file members. So remember I said that we had members representing 4 different retirement plans in this morning's presentation. Actually, let me see. I think I think we only have 2. So unless I hear otherwise, I'm going to just go ahead and discuss those 2 plans then. But we've had some question about when am I eligible to retire, and hopefully this will give you a better idea so that you can figure out how you are eligible to retire. So retirement eligibility for my rank and file members. And so first, let's talk about my rank and file members. That's those members who were hired in a regular duty type position, and you were hired prior to July 1 of 2006. So you graduated kindergarten and then you started working for the state immediately, right? So, but really, for those of you that were hired prior to July 1 of 2006, you are my regular 1 plan members, or what we call a Reg 1. So highlight this slide or mark this slide, because this is your slide. This is how everything pertains to you specifically. So you accrue at 2.5%. Your contribution rate is 7.5%. Your final average compensation is going to be based on 36 months, and you have a 25% anti-spiking. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts. Now let's look at the bottom. There are 4 gold circles at the bottom. Let's look at those first 3. So whichever one of these you meet first is going to be your first eligible date for regular non-reduced retirement. So if you are my regular 1 plan member, whichever one of these you meet first, that is your first eligible date. The first one would be 30 years of service at any age. The second, 25 years of service at age 55. The third, 10 years of service at age 60. And so if you're 47 years old and you have 30 years of service, That would be your first eligible date when you reach that 30 years of service. With the second one, 25 years, age 55, you have to have both the years and the age. So you have to be 55 or older and have 25 years or more. So let's say you have 23 years of service and you're 55. Well, you have the age, right? You're 55. However, you don't have the years because you only have 23 years. So you would have to work until you got those 25 years. And so it would happen to be, you would have those 25 years when you were 57. So you have to have the age and the years. And then the same holds true for 10 years at age 60. So you have to be 60 years old or older and have 10 years of service credit or more. So whichever one of these you meet first, this is your first eligible date for regular non-reduced retirement or drop entry, which Carlos is going to talk to us about drop in detail. And you don't get to pick and choose. Like I said, it's whichever one you meet first. And then all the way to the right is this fourth gold circle. And it says 20 years, any age, actuarially reduced. So if prior to meeting one of these, you have 20 years of service at any age, and you are ready to go ahead and retire and start collecting your benefit, you absolutely can. You're going to go ahead, you're going to retire, you're going to start collecting your benefit. Your benefit is going to be calculated based on that calculation that Carlos told you, and then it's going to be reduced based on a reduction factor. And that reduction factor is going to be based on how far you are away from regular non-reduced retirement. So 20 years, any age, actuarially reduced, but it's going to be based, the reduction, on how far you are away from meeting regular non-reduced retirement. And for my regular one plan members, if you take the actuarially reduced retirement and you retire as an active member or an inactive member, that could directly affect your first eligible date, therefore affecting the amount of your benefit. And again, Carlos is going to show you an example of that a little bit later when he gives you some additional information about an actuarially reduced retirement benefit. So for my regular one plan members, the way that you're going to calculate your benefit, you're going to take your years of service credit, you're going to multiply that by 2.5%, and then you're going to multiply that by a 36-month FAC. And that is going to give you your maximum monthly benefit. And that is going to be your benefit for life. That is your maximum monthly benefit. So next, I want to talk to my members that were hired between July 1 of 2006 through December 31 of 2010. So if you were hired July 1, 2006 through December 31 of 2010, you are my regular 2 plan members, or Reg 2. I said I would only cover 2, but I'm just going to go ahead and cover it all. If you were hired January 1 of 2011 through June 30 of 2015, you are my Reg 3 plan members. So based on whether you are a Reg 2 or a Reg 3, highlight or mark whichever one pertains to you, so you know that this is your slide and this pertains to you. Your accrual rate is 2.5%. You contribute at 8%. You have a 60-month final average compensation with a 15% anti-spiking. You see the difference for you. Remember, my regular one plan member had 4 gold circles at the bottom, and my regular 2 and 3, you only have 2 gold circles at the bottom. So let's look at that. So let's look at the gold circle on the left, and this is for regular non-reduced retirement or drop entry. You have 1. 5 years at age 60, and you have to have both the years and the age. So for my regular 2 and 3 members, I just told you your first eligible date. Your first eligible date is going to be your 60th birthday, as long as if when you turn 60, you have 5 years or more. So the first eligible date for regular non-reduced retirement is 5 years of service at age 60. You don't have all the options of, so many years at a certain age or, so many other years at this age. It is 5 years at age 60. So for my plan 2 and 3 members, for you to be eligible to retire non-reduced or enter drop, you have to be 60 years old and have at least 5 years of service. You also have 20 years any age actuarially reduced. And so if you meet 20 years of service, prior to reaching age 60, and you want to go ahead and retire and start collecting your benefit, you absolutely can. We're going to calculate your benefit, and then we're going to reduce it based on how far you are away from your 60th birthday. So however far away you are from your 60th birthday, that's how much the reduction will be. And so for my regular 2 and 3 members, you're going to calculate your benefit. You're going to take your years of service, and you're going to multiply that by your 2.5% accrual rate times a 60-month FAC. And that is going to give you your maximum monthly benefit. And you see that my reg 2 and 3, you're on the same slide, right? So it's kind of like, well, what's the difference, Wendy? Why? So the difference between my 2 and 3 is survivor benefits. And Carlos will talk about those in a little bit more detail. But if you pass away prior to retiring or entering drop, your loved ones may be entitled to a benefit, a survivor benefit. And how we're going to pay that benefit out is going to be based on whether you're a regular 2 member or a regular 3 member. So that's the biggest difference for my 2 and 3. It's how we actually pay survivor benefits. And then very quickly, I'll talk to those members hired on or after July 1 of 2015. You're my regular 4 plan member, so highlight this slide. This is your slide. You accrue at 2.5%, 8% contribution, 60-month FAC, 15% anti-spiking. You also have only 2 circles at the bottom, right? But your first eligible date for regular non-reduced retirement is 5 years at age 62. So you're not eligible for a regular non-reduced retirement until you are 62 years old and have at least 5 years of service credit. So 5 at 62. You do have 20 years any age actuarially reduced. So if you meet 20 years of service prior to reaching age 62, you want to retire and collect your benefit, you can. We calculate your benefit, then we reduce it based on how far you are away from your 62nd birthday. And my regular 4 plan members, you're going to calculate your retirement benefit the same way as my 2 and 3, with that years of service, that 2.5%, and the 60-month final average compensation. So those are the different retirement plans that we have representatives from, or we have members representing in this morning's presentation. So hopefully based on that, you are now able to determine when your first eligible date for retirement and or drop entry is going to be. It's very easy for my 2, 3s, and 4s, right? My reg 1s, you might have to put a little thought into it because it's actually going to be a little different based on the date that you were hired. Or I'm sorry, your years of service and your age. Now let's talk about retirement options. And these are the options that you select upon retirement or drop entry. So you're going to select your option and you're going to name your beneficiary. Absolutely anyone you want can be named as your beneficiary. A married member generally must choose an option that leaves at least 50% of the retiree benefit to their spouse, unless their spouse signs a Form 4-04, a spousal consent, releasing the member to choose an option other than one that leaves them 50%. Use the benefit calculator that we have online. So remember I said you can access your calculator online. You can use that calculator to go and run all different scenarios. You can go and say, what if I retire and name my husband as my beneficiary, my wife, my spouse? Or what if I retire and I name my 5-year-old nephew as my beneficiary? You can go and look at those different type scenarios, and you can look at the numbers and how they're different. You can go and review our Members Guide to Retirement for some more detail of the options. And I do want to talk about this. This is actually one of my absolute favorite slides. I think we're missing a couple of slides actually, Carlos. So again, anyone you want can be named as your beneficiary. You do have to leave your spouse at least 50% unless they sign that spousal consent. And so let's look at this. This is the retirement options. So these are the options that you're going to have to select. And I don't know if you've ever had an estimate run or if you've ever gone on to the online calculator. And if you haven't, I'm sure that you're going to do so before the end of this week, right? You're going to go create that account, go play around with the calculator. But when you fill in the blanks of the calculator and you hit submit, it is going to give you a screen that looks like this. And so it's a box of numbers and you're like, okay, well, I have this box of numbers. What does this box of numbers mean? Well, on slide 32, this is that box of numbers. It just has the words. This is the definition to the box of numbers. So this is how you can know and understand what those numbers mean. And so let's go over it and talk about the different options. And so remember, Carlos told you that when you retire, the benefit is going to be lifetime for you, no matter what option you select, right? You are going to receive this benefit for life. So the first is the maximum option, or the maximum plan. That's that exact calculation. That's the absolute highest benefit that you can get, non-reduced. It does not provide a lifetime benefit to a beneficiary. The way that it works is that we pay you, and when you pass away, if we have paid you out all of the contributions that you've paid in, then there's nothing left to a beneficiary. If you pass away and we've not paid you out all the contributions that you've paid in, then we will pay a one-time lump sum to your beneficiary or beneficiaries. So there's no guarantee. All that they're going to get is a lump sum of any contributions remaining, if any. And yes, you can name multiple beneficiaries and you can change it. And the way that this is calculated is that those contributions are going to exhaust after about 2 years of retirement. That doesn't mean you're not going to get a benefit after 2 years of retirement. You can be 106 years old on the front porch rocking. You're getting this benefit. But let me just kind of put it in an example for you. So let's say you've worked and you've paid into the system. And let's say you've paid in $50,000 in contributions. And you retire, and your retirement benefit is $2,000 a month. So with the maximum plan, what we're going to do is we're going to pay you $2,000 a month out of your contributions first. So we're going to pay you $2,000 a month out of that $50,000. Once that $50,000 is exhausted, we are going to continue to pay you $2,000 a month for the remainder of your life. Where a beneficiary comes in is, let's say you've been retired for 3 years and we've paid you out about $75,000, right? So we have paid you $75,000 in retirement and you pass away. Well, 75 is more than the 50% that you've paid in, right? So we have paid you out the $50,000 you paid in plus. There's not going to be any benefit to any beneficiary because you have received out everything that you have paid in. Or let's say you've been retired for about 5 months and we've paid you out $10,000 in retirement and you pass away. Well, there's still about $40,000 of your contributions in lasers, right? We've only paid you out 10,000 of that 50. So what happens to your 40,000? Well, we are going to pay that in a one-time lump sum to your named beneficiary or beneficiaries. I like to say with maximum plan, pretty much assume you're not leaving anyone anything, because the hope and goal is that you're going to live 2 years, right? At least, and you're going to get back everything that you put in. Next is option 1, and this works the same exact way as the maximum as far as no lifetime benefit to a beneficiary. The way that it works, you take a slightly reduced benefit up front, and instead of paying you out those contributions in 2 years, we have an actuarial calculation where those contributions are going to last about 8 to 10 years. And so all you're doing is you took a slightly lower monthly benefit so that those contributions dwindle down a little more slowly. Again, I like to say pretty much assume you're not leaving a benefit to anyone, because the hope and goal is that you live 8 to 10 years. Again, you get out everything that you put in plus. So, but with max and option 1, the benefit is not lifetime to a beneficiary. Because of that, you can name multiple beneficiaries and you can change it, because the likelihood that they will get anything is that they will not. Now let's talk about options 2A through 4B. These options allow you to take a reduced benefit up front in order to leave a lifetime benefit to a beneficiary. Because you are leaving a lifetime benefit to a beneficiary, you can only name one beneficiary and you can never name another. And the reduction is going to be based on your age and your beneficiary's age at time of retirement. So remember, I told you you can go to the calculator and you can say, what if I name my spouse as my beneficiary who's close in age? Well, the reduction's not going to be so great because y'all are close in age, and we're looking at life expectancy. We're looking at how long over the life expectancy of both of you are we going to have to pay a benefit. If you're close in age, it's going to not be as long. Whereas you name your 5-year-old nephew, your 5-year-old nephew's life expectancy is going to be longer than a spouse who's close in age, right? So you can name the 5-year-old. However, the reduction is going to be much greater because the life expectancy of both of you combined is much greater. And so option 2A, it allows you to take a reduced benefit up front. The reduction is going to be based on your age and your beneficiary's age. We pay you that benefit for life. Upon your passing, we are going to pay to your named beneficiary for their life the same monthly benefit that you were receiving. Option 2 is a kind of an exception, and it is for members who have a mentally handicapped child. What it does, it allows you to take a reduced benefit up front. You can name a beneficiary, and you can also leave a benefit to that mentally handicapped child. And so we will pay you your reduced benefit for life. Upon your passing, we pay the same benefit to your beneficiary for their life. And when that beneficiary passes away, we pay to the guardian of your mentally handicapped child the same benefit. Right? So the reduction is based on your age, beneficiary's age, and the severity of the handicap. This is a calculation that we can do in office. However, there is a form that your child's doctor would have to complete in order for us to do those calculations. So if you have this situation, you want to get that form completed by your child's doctor and get it submitted to us so we can have everything ready to run calculations for you. The next is option 3. You take a reduced benefit up front in order to leave a lifetime benefit to a beneficiary. Reduction is based on your age and their age. We pay you your benefit for life, and upon your passing, we pay to your beneficiary for their life 50% of the monthly benefit you were getting. Now there's an exception to every rule, and option 4A is that exception, because remember I said you can name anyone you want as your beneficiary. That is true. with the exception to option 4A. Option 4A, you must name your spouse. It does not take age into consideration. It is automatically going to pay you 90% of the maximum benefit, and upon your passing, it will pay your spouse 55% of the maximum benefit. So if you know your maximum benefit, you calculate 90% of that, that's what you would get. 55% of that, that's what your spouse would get. I do want to say that if you're thinking of naming your spouse as your beneficiary, don't automatically say, oh, I'm going to choose option 4A because that's the one for spouses, right? I can tell you that in my experience, option 4A for members who are close in age to their spouse, for members who have a spouse close in age, option 4A is typically the worst option that they can select. Option 4A is good for those members who have a very large difference in age. So again, you want to have the estimates run, you want to go in with an open mind, and you want to look at all of the numbers and you want to compare everything. I know sometimes I'll have someone come into my office and they're like, Wendy, I already know. I want to choose this option. I want to go in a drop. I want to do, and I'm like, how do you know? You'd not even run an estimate. And they say, well, that's what my mama did and my grandmama did, and that's what they told me to do. Well, just because it was good for them doesn't mean it's good for you. It's okay to have an idea. Hey, I think this is what I want to do. But when you meet with that educator and you look at estimates, have an open mind and listen to all of the options and everything they have to say, because you may see something that you didn't even know about. So 4A, you can only name a spouse, but that doesn't mean if you are naming your spouse, it is the best option. You do want to look at the numbers. And then option 4B, you take a reduced benefit based on your age and beneficiary's age. We pay you that for life. Upon your passing, we will pay 55% of your benefit to your named beneficiary for their life. So these are the options. This is what you will select when you retire or enter drop. This is the explanation to this box here. It does say options 2A through 4B. The benefit to the beneficiary is lifetime. Again, you can only name one beneficiary and you can never name another. And because reduction is based on your age and beneficiary's age. And so let's take a look at the next screen. This is just a screenshot of what that online calculator looks like. And it's very easy and it's fill in the blank. And so this is what it looks like. Over here, I'm just going to go down each side. Let's go down the left first. So the left, it's going to tell you your first eligible date for an unreduced benefit. So if you want to know when your first eligible date for a non-reduced benefit is, you can go log on to the calculator and it's going to show you. This member's first eligible date is May 1 of 2023. If you are going to have 20 years of service and be eligible for a reduced retirement prior to non-reduced, it will tell you that also. So this member would be eligible for a reduced retirement May 1 of 2018. So that tells you your eligibility dates. Next, under there is a box that says initial benefit option. We've not discussed this, but I'm going to discuss it in detail. I just want you to see where it is and know what it is. Then under there is a self-funded COLA. It's automatically marked no. You probably want to leave it that way. We will talk about self-funded COLA in detail. And then under there is service credit, additional years. So if you want to purchase additional years, transfer years in, and you want to see how it will change your benefit, you can add those additional years in here. The only thing about this is if buying those additional years will change your first eligible date for retirement, it's not going to calculate that. It's just going to show you what the additional years would give you based on your original retirement eligibility. Now let's go ahead and look at the right-hand side. So the first fill in the blank is last day worked. Under that is the retirement date. And so people will ask me, Wendy, is this estimate correct? Yes, it is pulled from the same calculator that we use in office. However, it's going to calculate based on the information that you enter. So as long as what you enter is correct, the calculation that you will get is correct, so to speak. And so this is important. It's going to ask you for your last day worked. Your last day worked is going to be the last day that your agency considers you an employee. It doesn't mean your last day that you are physically there. It can be a holiday. You can be out on leave. It doesn't matter. It just is the last day that your agency considers you an employee of their agency. And so that is going to be your last day worked. And then your retirement date is going to be whatever's the next consecutive day. So this member's first eligible date is May 1 of 2023. So their last day worked will be April 30 of 2023, and their retirement date will be May 1. You see, they're consecutive. Last day worked and retirement date are consecutive. You don't want these days to have a break. If this member wanted to see what actuarially reduced would look like, they would enter April 30 of 2018 and retirement date May 1 of 2018. You always want these to be consecutive with one exception. And that exception is if you are retiring as an inactive member or out of state service. Again, Carlos is going to explain in more detail, but I'll use myself for example. I'm a regular 2 employee, so I have to have 5 years of service and be 60 years old to get a benefit, right? Well, I have 16 years of service right now, but I'm not 60 years old. If I wanted to terminate employment right now, I could, and I could leave all of my contributions here at Lasers, and when I turn 60, I would be eligible to start drawing a benefit. So what I would do is I would put my last day worked as today, January the 11th of 2022, and I would put my retirement date as my 60th birthday. And that would show me what it would look like. That's the only time I want those to have a break. Under that is unused leave. It's asking for days of leave. So on your check stub, your leave is in hours. Your agency is going to pay you for your first 300 hours of annual leave. So you want to look at your annual leave and subtract that 300 hours. If you have anything remaining, you want to add that to all of your sick leave, divide by 8 because you want to convert hours into days, and make sure you enter days here. Final average, if you want us to just calculate, leave current. If you, we will not project out. When we take your salary and we do your final average, if I did an estimate that I'm retiring in 10 years, they're going to take my salary now and project it out 10 years. They're not going to give me any increases or anything like that. So maybe I know I'm going to get some increases and I want to see what that would look like. I could hit manual and I could manually enter what I want. And then here you can enter different beneficiaries. If you wanted to see what your spouse looks like, if you wanted to see what your 5-year-old nephew looks like, you do that. You then hit your calculate benefit estimate and it brings you that box. Remember, here's the box of numbers. We just defined it in the slide before. So this member is going to retire with 30 years of service at 2.5% accrual rate with a $2,500 a month FAC. Their maximum retirement benefit would be $1,875 a month every month for the rest of their life. They have a beneficiary that's 10 years younger than them. And so these are the options. If they wanted to leave something to that beneficiary, they could reduce their benefit from the 1875 to 1627 and receive that for life. And upon their passing, then their named beneficiary gets the same. So that's that sheet. That's that box of numbers. Louisiana is a community property state, and ex-spouse may be entitled to a portion of your retirement benefit. Lasers does require a certified copy of the judgment of divorce if we are aware of divorce, even if you were divorced prior to employment with the state. If you are married at the time of retirement and you select the maximum or option 1, remember that's the options that do not leave a lifetime benefit to a beneficiary, or you choose an option and you leave that lifetime benefit to someone other than your spouse, they must sign that spousal consent form. And no, your ex-spouse cannot sign it. It's not an ex-spousal consent, it is a spousal consent. If you do that and the spousal consent is required and we do not receive it, then we will automatically put you as though you had selected option 3. We'll name your spouse as your beneficiary, and that's where you take the reduction up front and they receive 50% of your benefit upon your passing. We often get the question, if I can only select one beneficiary and I cannot change it, what happens if my beneficiary passes away or predeceases me? Well, there are two ways that you can change your option after retirement. You change your option, not your beneficiary, right? You cannot name another beneficiary for a lifetime benefit. The first is you name a beneficiary and that beneficiary predeceases you. If that happens, then you call us, you let us know that your beneficiary has predeceased you, and we will pop you up from whichever option you selected back to the maximum. So let's say you selected option 2A, and you've named your spouse your beneficiary. So you've retaken a reduction based on your age and your spouse's age, and your spouse predeceases you. You do not get to now name your 5-year-old nephew, right? Because the reduction was based on your spouse's age, not your 5-year-old nephew's age. But we do pop you up to the maximum, and we will continue to pay you the maximum benefit until you pass away. The second way to change your option after retirement is you were happily married when you retired, right? And then you retired and you were happily divorced. I'm kidding, but it does happen. So if you selected option 2A through 4B and you named your spouse the beneficiary and you're now divorced, they can sign their rights over. And as long as they sign their rights over, it has to be a court-ordered document. You submit that to us, and we will pop you up to an actuarially reduced maximum benefit. So those are the only two ways that you can change that option. Again, you don't get to name a new beneficiary, but you do get to name, you do get to change that option. I know that was a lot of information. I've done a whole lot of talking. Hopefully you kept up with it and were able to now know when you're first eligible, understand about the different options, have a little bit better understanding of the online calculator. Let me go ahead and check in with Carlos and see. Carlos, did we have any questions, any comments?
Yeah, Wendy, we did have a question. One question was, when I retire and my agency pays me a lump sum for a maximum of 300 hours of unused leave, do they pay me based on my final salary?
So when you retire, your agency is going to pay you up to 300 hours of your annual leave at your hourly rate at time of retirement. So it is on your final salary. And that comes to you specifically from your agency.
All right, thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
We also have another question here for you. The question is there a form that I can have my ex-spouse sign to relinquish their rights to receiving my retirement?
There is not a form per se. It does have to be a court-ordered document. The question was, Carlos, is there a document your ex-spouse can sign to give over their rights? Is that right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So the way that it's going to work is when you retire, if you're divorced and we're aware of it, we're going to require that true certified copy of that judgment of divorce. If retirement is not addressed anywhere at all on that judgment of divorce, then we are going to pay you your retirement benefit in full. If and when your ex-spouse calls us and says, hey, I heard Wendy's retired and I'm entitled to a portion of her benefit, then AskLASERS is going to tell that ex-spouse, you must submit a court-ordered document. So there's not a form, but it has to be a court-ordered judgment stating that your benefit has to be split between you and your ex. Now, if when you submit that judgment of divorce to us, it talks about retirement in the very beginning and it says that a benefit must be split between the two of you, then obviously when we start paying that benefit, we are going to split it.
All right, thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome. I'm sorry I had a little moment there.
That's fine.
Between spousal consent and divorce.
Another question that we have is, I'm sorry, let me look at it again. Yeah, the question is, can we receive a retirement benefit from multiple retirement systems?
You can receive a retirement benefit from multiple retirement systems, yes.
All right. Thank you, Wendy. And then there's one more question here for you. What percentage of my retirement will I receive if I work 30 years?
Okay, so remember, Carlos told you the calculation, years of service times 2.5% times your final average. So you would say 30, you're going to get 2.5% for every year. 30 years times 2.5% is 75% of your salary, right? So you would retire with 75% of your salary. And I'm just going to add on to that, Carlos, just to go a little bit long. Just to add on to that, a lot of times people will ask, what is regular retirement? When am I eligible? Well, regular retirement is different and it's relative for different people, because remember, I have a regular one member who might be eligible with 30 years of service at age 47. And so their benefit is going to be based on 30 years of working of service, right? That's going to be that 2.5% times 30. That's 75% of their salary. Whereas another member has 10 years at age 60. So if they have 10 years and they're 60, they're eligible to retire. Their benefit is regular. It's not a reduced benefit. However, it's only based on 10 years. And 10 years times 2.5% is 25%. So they're both getting regular non-reduced retirement. The only difference is that one has 30 years and the other has 10. So that's where the difference is.
All right.
Sorry, I just kind of.
Not a problem.
Yeah. And if there are no other questions, then I'll turn it over to you, Carlos, and let you talk to us about some of the different types of retirement.
All right. Thank you, Wendy. So like Wendy said, I'm going to discuss the different types of retirement that we have. There's the regular retirement, out-of-state retirement, actuarially reduced retirement. We're going to cover drop. We're going to cover the IBO, or the initial benefit option, and then we'll also cover disability as well. So let's first look at regular retirement, right? So remember this formula, right? If we can remember this formula, we'll remember how we calculate our regular retirement benefit, right? So it's always going to be our years of service credit multiplied by our accrual rate, multiplied by our final average compensation, and then that's going to give us our maximum benefit. So in this example, we'll see that our member has 25 years of service, a 2.5% accrual rate, and a $4,300 average salary or final average compensation. And then that's going to give us a maximum benefit of $2,687.50. So that's our maximum monthly retirement benefit. Out-of-state service retirement. So that's the next thing that we want to cover, is that out-of-state service retirement or inactive retirement, right? So we definitely understand that not everyone who works for Lasers is going to retire at the age of 60 or 62 or have 25 years at the age of 55. You know, these are full careers, and some members may want to go work somewhere else at a certain point during the career. But as long as you earn the minimum number of years required of service credit for your particular plan, then you can retire when you reach the appropriate age needed for retirement, right? And we call that an out-of-state service retirement. That's for members who are inactive, members who no longer contribute, right? So as long as your contributions, the money that you pay to Lasers, remains in Lasers, you can apply for retirement, and you're guaranteed that lifetime monthly retirement benefit. Wendy gave us a great example of she's not quite eligible to retire at this point. She does have 16 years of the system. So if Wendy wanted to leave today, she could leave, right? And then retire when she reaches the age of 60, because she has the number of years required in the system, provided she doesn't refund her retirement contributions, right? Now, retiring out of state service, that may impact your health insurance with the officer group benefits. That's why there is the alternative to retiring out of state service. And that alternative is called the actuarially reduced retirement. So let's look at a few examples of the out of state service retirement. So in this example, this is an example for a Reg 1 member, age 46, with 20 years of service credit and a $4,300 final average compensation. So if our member leaves state service and does not refund their retirement contributions, This is an example of a member that can defer their retirement and apply for retirement at the age of 60, right? And we would calculate the retirement benefit the same way we calculate all retirement benefits. Years of service multiplied by the accrual rate, multiplied by the final average compensation, and that's going to give us a maximum benefit of $2,150. So here's another example for us. This is an example for a Reg 3 plan member. Reg 3 plan member, 52 years old, with 15 years of service credit and a $4,300 final average compensation. Concept is still the same. Our member has the years needed of service credit, but doesn't have the age, right? So if that member left at the age of 52 and wanted to retire at the age of 60, they're going to meet that 5-year at age 60 retirement criteria in 8 years, right? And so in 8 years, this member receives a lifetime monthly benefit of $1,612.50. Okay, so up next is something called the actuarially reduced retirement. That's that 20-year retirement plan that most retirement plans have, or that 20-year retirement option that most retirement plans have in lasers, right? And so this is for members who have the years needed to retire, but not necessarily the age, right? So if you have 20 years, not including your leave, right? 20 actual years of service credit of retirement eligibility, right? You can retire and receive an actuarially reduced retirement benefit. Now, what do we mean when we say actuarially reduced, right? So the benefit is it's going to be reduced, right? We're going to do the basic retirement calculation for you, and then because you don't actually meet the retirement criteria, we're going to reduce that benefit, and the reduction depends on the number of months that you are away from reaching your first eligible date to retire. General rule of thumb: the further you are away from reaching that first eligible date to retire, then the larger the reduction is going to be for you. As well as there is a caveat that's pretty exclusive to Reg 1 members or members in Reg 1 plans, or those pre-June 30th, 2006 plans that have those multiple retirement eligibilities. And that is that there may be a difference for someone who retires in-state service as an active member versus someone retiring out-of-state service as an inactive member, because there is a possibility of a slight change in the first eligible date to retire, and we'll discuss that in the next slide for you. All right, so let's look at this option for us here. So we have a Reg 1 member, age 46, with 20 years of service credit and a $4,300 final average compensation, right? So what we initially do is we calculate the benefit the same way we calculate all benefits, those years of service times your accrual rate times the FAC. That's going to give us $2,150. So that's our benefit if we had both the years and the age to retire without the reduction, right? But we have the years, but not the age, and so the benefit is going to be reduced. There are two examples here. The example on the left shows for an active member, right? So an active member, that's somebody who's actively contributing, actively working at the time that they leave employment, right? They end their state employment and they retire the very next day without a break in service, right? That's an active member. In this scenario, because the member was active at the time of retirement, we can assume that had the member not retired, our member would have had 25 years at the age of 55 in 9 years or 108 months. That means that we're going to apply this factor, right, to the 2150, which reduces the benefit to $999.19. Now on the right here, we'll see an inactive member, right? So even if there's a 1-day break in service, this member ends their employment and does not retire the very next day, right? Right. And so what happens in this case is that we can assume that the member would have had 25 years at the age of 55 because the member stopped working, right? And so we're going to look at the next retirement criteria. For this member, that next retirement criteria is going to be 10 years at the age of 60, 167 months away. That's a much different factor, leaving us with a much lower monthly retirement benefit. This is something that we definitely want to look at before we decide to just retire, right? We encourage everyone to get a retirement estimate from us. That way, you don't go into retirement expecting one benefit amount and then you end up getting another one. You want to have a clear, precise vision of what your retirement is going to be. Right. And then finally, there is this regular 3 plan example for us. This is for someone with 20 years of service and a $4,300 FAC. So remember, our maximum non-reduced benefit is $2,150. So for the Reg 2, 3, and 4 plan members, because our retirement eligibility is based exclusively on our age, right, and having a minimum of 5 years, then there's not going to be a difference in retiring active versus inactive. And so we'll see here somebody age 49, right? And this is going to be our benefit. If we're 55, then this is going to be our benefit. So that's going to be the end of our presentation. Well, the end of the first part of our presentation here. Let's go to Wendy and see if we had any questions about anything that we've covered so far.
Carlos, does the online calculator calculate that actuarially reduced benefit?
Great question, Wendy. And yes, the online calculator does calculate the actuarially reduced retirement benefit. Yeah, those factors are built into that online calculator. And so if you want to look at it, just ensure that we're plugging in either the consecutive days for end of employment and retirement day, or we're plugging in that break if we're going to stop working and maybe retire at a specific age. That way the calculator comes out correct for you.
Okay. And if I'm going to do actuarially reduced, do I need to do anything different than regular as far as applying?
You don't need to do anything different than regular, but we do want the application before your end of employment date. That way you can get the highest benefit possible. So drop is a common plan that we have here at Lasers. What drop does is that it's going to allow a member to defer or save their retirement benefit for a maximum of 36 months while continuing to work and receive a paycheck. Now, to be eligible for drop, you do have to meet that regular non-reduced retirement criteria, right? So before we took a break, we discussed the 20-year actuarially reduced criteria. Right. So if you're selecting one of those, that 20-year actuarially reduced retirement, you cannot enroll in drop. Also, we haven't discussed it yet, but we do plan on discussing it next, right? Is that you cannot take an IBO and then also participate in drop, as well as the reverse is also true. You cannot enroll in drop and then later take an IBO. It's either one or the other. You can't do them both, right? So when a member enrolls into drop, you're going to select your retirement option, just like you're going to retire, right? You're going to select the beneficiary for that option, just like you're going to retire, right? But you don't retire. You're still going to work and you're still going to earn your full-time salary, right? So when you select that retirement option, that option is irrevocable, right? You cannot change it once you've enrolled into drop. That's going to be your permanent retirement option. As well as when you select your beneficiary, if you're selecting a beneficiary, if you're selecting an option that leaves a monthly benefit to a beneficiary, right, then you cannot change that beneficiary once you've enrolled into drop, right? That beneficiary is locked in place. And the reason for that is that we're basing your retirement amount off of your age and the beneficiary's age if you're selecting from options 2A through 4B, right? So you're still working, but Lasers is going to treat you as though you're retired, and we're going to calculate your retirement benefit. The same benefit that you would have earned had you just retired, Lasers calculates that retirement benefit. You still work, right? But Lasers pays that retirement benefit to your drop account, right? And so that's why we also need to choose the drop account beneficiary. Now, that drop account beneficiary does not have to be the same person that you're leaving the monthly benefit to. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And unlike the retirement beneficiary, then you can change that drop beneficiary at any time. And then you're also going to select the drop participation period, how long you plan to enroll and drop, right? Most members will select the maximum time period, right? You can be in drop for 36 months, and you'll say, because I'm getting the opportunity to save my retirement benefit for 3 years or 36 months, then that's what I'll do, right? And so on your drop application, most members will just check that box that says, I want to participate for the maximum time allowable. But some members don't. All right, some members, maybe they only want to be in drop for specifically a year or specifically 12 months, right? You're more than welcome to do that. You're more than welcome to tell us at the beginning of drop how long you plan to participate in drop. However, your drop participation period, it cannot be extended, right? So if you tell us at the beginning of drop that you want to do 12 months, once that 12 months has ended, then you cannot extend your drop participation period beyond those 12 months. However, your drop participation period can be shortened. And the way it can be shortened is because you as a retiree, you can just retire, right? When you're eligible to retire, when you are eligible to enroll and drop. So if you decide after a year, you've worked long enough and you want to retire, then you can retire and start receiving your monthly retirement benefit. And then you'll also have the money that you saved in drop for however long that you're in drop. So how is your drop account funded? Remember, the monthly benefit, it's the same monthly benefit that you would have received had you retired. Instead of you retiring, you're deferring your retirement, right? And we're putting that retirement benefit into a drop account. And you get to save that benefit for 36 months while continuing to work and earn your full salary. Now, there is a 3-year, 60-day window, right, that opens when you first become eligible for retirement, right? And you have a maximum of a 36-month participation period, right? So that just means that there's a 60-day grace period that you can start drop and not lose any of the 36-month eligibility. Right? So to explain the grace period, I'll always like to get a little help from Wendy, right? And I'll use myself as an example. So I am first eligible to retire at the age of 60. So 60 starts my drop window, right? So I have 60 days after my 60th birthday to be eligible to enroll in drop and still participate for the full 36 months of drop. However, what happens if I'm 61, right? Can I still enroll in drop at the age of 61? Right. So let's ask Wendy. Hey, Wendy, can I still enroll in drop at the age of 61?
It appears you're still in your drop window, so I'm going to go with yes.
All right. So yes, I'm still eligible to enroll and drop at the age of 61. Like Wendy said, we're still in that drop window, right? But we cannot participate for the full 36 months. So we've lost a little time. We've lost about 10 months because of that 60-day grace period. So I now only have 26 months remaining. At the age of 62, I'm still in my drop window, right? But again, I can't participate for the full 36 months. I've lost another 12 months of eligibility, so I now only have 14 months remaining. At the age of 63, I'm basically still in my drop window, but I only have 60 days remaining or 2 months, right? And then 60 days after my 63rd birthday, right, my drop window has closed and I can no longer participate in drop. So there are a few things to consider about drop. No employee or employer contributions are paid during drop. And because nobody's paying any contributions, you're not going to earn any service credit. You are eligible for performance adjustments, promotions, demotions, etc. But any pay increase that you receive after you've already enrolled into drop, that's not going to impact your pre-drop retirement calculation. And that's because the benefit is locked in place based on the years of service and your FAC at the time of drop entry. Now you can change employers as long as there's no break in service. So if you wanted to go work somewhere else in state government and still maintain your drop participation, you're perfectly free to do that. However, once you end your employment or once you terminate your employment, we're going to consider you retired, right? And then you'll start receiving that monthly retirement benefit and you'll have full access to the money that you've saved in that drop account. The basic benefit of enrolling in drop is, right, you're going to create that lump sum account. And that lump sum account is going to be up to 36 months of your retirement benefit saved in that account. Now, when you enroll and participate in drop, you're not going to earn any interest on that lump sum, right, on the money that you're contributing. You don't start to earn interest until your drop participation has ended and we transfer those funds over to that third party. But remember, you're still working, you're still earning your full salary, and so you do continue to earn leave, both annual and sick leave. And then once you do retire officially, that's when that leave that you have can be added towards your retirement benefit. And that's something that we'll discuss a little bit later on in the presentation for you. So when you're in your drop participation period, you're going to have the choice. You can end your employment, right? If you end your employment, we're going to consider you retired. You start receiving your monthly retirement benefit. Or you can continue working after drop. If you continue working after drop, you'll go back to paying employee contributions and your agency will go back to paying employer contributions. And you start to earn additional years of service credit, right? You start to earn those additional years for working after drop. The money that you saved in drop, those funds will be transferred over to the self-directed plan with Empower Retirement as part of that. Well, they'll be transferred over to Empower Retirement as part of that self-directed plan. Right. So you cannot withdraw any funds from the drop account, right, while you're still working. You can only withdraw those funds once your state employment officially ends. And but you are eligible, able to manage your money with Empower Retirement as part of that self-directed plan, right? So what happens is once you complete drop, we're going to transfer your funds over to Empower Retirement. They're going to place those monies in a stable value fund for you, right? If you want, the stable value fund is probably the most secure fund. That fund also pays the least interest. And so we have a lot of members who want to maybe earn a little bit more interest on that money than what the stable value fund is paying. Empower Retirement has many different funds that you can invest either all or part of that money into to start earning a little bit more interest on that money that you saved for 36 months. Right. And then as long as Empower Retirement continues to manage your drop funds, then that money is going to be exempt from Louisiana state taxes, right, when you make a withdrawal. So you don't have to pay any Louisiana state taxes on those drop withdrawals. So for a member to work at least 13 days or more after drop participation, they start earning additional years of service credit, right? That's going to allow them to earn a supplemental benefit, right? A benefit for the years that they worked after drop, right? That's going to be added to their pre-drop benefit. Right? So if a drop participant is hired, well, for Reg 1 members who are hired either on or before June 30th of 2006, if we work less than 36 months after drop, our supplemental benefit is going to be based on our pre-drop salary, our pre-drop FAC. If we work 36 months or more after drop, then our supplemental benefit is based on our new salary. We use that new salary to calculate a post-drop FAC to calculate your supplemental benefit. If you're were hired July 1 of 2006 or later, remember you have a 60-month FAC. So if you work 60 months or more after drop, we use your new salary to calculate a post-drop FAC. If you work 60 months or less than 60 months, we're going to use your pre-drop salary, your pre-drop FAC to calculate your supplemental benefit. We understand that can be somewhat confusing. That's why we have this example for you. Right. So in this example, member has 25 years pre-drop, and an FAC of $4,300, right? So when we calculate the retirement benefit, it results in us having a maximum pre-drop benefit of $2,687.50. Right? If we save that for 36 months, we're going to save $96,000, a little bit more than $96,000 in that drop account. We have two scenarios below. One where a member works 2 years after drop, right? Less than 36 months. And then we'll calculate those additional 2 years based off of that member's pre-drop FAC of $4,300. That's going to add another $215 to the benefit, making our final retirement benefit $2,902.50. And then the scenario here shows our member working 4 years after drop, right? So our Reg 1 member who's worked more than 36 months after drop, we can now use the new salary to determine a new FAC, which is $4,800, which adds another $480. And then our final retirement benefit is $3,167.50. Remember, the benefit that you've earned for the first 25 years, that's locked in place. So we're only going to be able to add 2. We can't actually replace that for you. And so that's just an example of how working after drop, how you can or how you will, and one of the ways that you will not use your new salary to calculate that supplemental benefit that you earn. So this is a great time to kind of go back to Wendy to see if we had any more questions about anything that we've covered so far.
So Carlos, I had a question about drop, and the question was, it's more of a comment. I was told I must work 36 months after drop to get a supplemental benefit.
Okay, great question. And so the answer is no. You don't have to work the additional 36 months to get a supplemental benefit. Remember, you only need to work 13 days or more, right? So as long as you work 13 days or more, you're going to earn a supplemental benefit. However, working 36 months or more allows us, for Reg 1 members, to use your new salary to determine the amount of that supplemental benefit. And that's the key difference for you.
Okay, and then I have someone, it's 2 different members, and one says, I worked at LSU and I contributed during 2 years to VALIC and 1 year to TIA CREF. Can I transfer the service credits?
Okay, great question.
And then
oh, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, because I'm just going to put them together. And then someone else responded, I see that if an employee contributed to TIA CREF while at LSU, the service credits can be transferred. So can you please clarify, is there a difference between TIA CREF and VALIC? Can you transfer? Okay.
All right. So TIA CREF and VALIC are both what we call defined contribution plans. Those are very similar to 401k plans, right? So remember, you cannot directly transfer that money from TIA CREF or from VALIC into LASERS, right? Because we're a pension system, right? But what you can do, and we're going to cover purchasing service credit shortly, is that if you want, you can purchase additional years in LASERS using the money that you saved in that TIA CREF account or in that VALIC account, right? As far as a direct transfer, transferring the money in, saying, hey, you got this amount in TIA CREF and this amount in VALIC, I want to send that over to LASERS. You can't directly do it unless you're purchasing years of service, right? Or, well, unless you're purchasing years of service, right?
So what if, as a member of LSU, I was contributing into another Louisiana retirement system?
And so that's a difference. Right, so if you were a part of another Louisiana retirement system, maybe you paid into the teacher's retirement system. So if you paid into that retirement system, right, then you can apply the transfer the service credit that you've earned in that system over to LASERS, because those are transferable. It's going from pension system to pension system. But when you're going from a defined contribution plan over to a defined benefit plan, the only way to do that is to, again, like we discussed, purchase years of service with our plan and use that money to purchase those years. But yeah, if you paid into another retirement system, then you can apply for a transfer of credible service from one system to another system.
So I would request an invoice and then just transfer my money from VALIC or TIA CREF to purchase those years. Is that what you're telling me? That's the
Okay.
question.
And the question again is, you would request an invoice, or how you request an invoice is?
No, the question is, I would get an invoice to purchase years versus transferring and then use the money that's in TIA CREF or VALIC to make that purchase.
Okay, right. Great question. Okay. So yeah, so if we're going to apply to purchase years of service, right, what we're going to do is we're going to fill out the application to purchase years of service. What that application does is that's going to provide you with the invoice, right? Once you have that invoice will detail the amount that is going to cost you to purchase those additional years of service, right? Once you have that invoice, that's when you transfer the money. That's when you use that money that you have in VALIC and transfer it over to Lasers to pay that invoice, right? So the only way that you can actually transfer money from VALIC or TIA CREF is if you have an active invoice for a purchase of service with us. Now, as far as transferring time from the teacher's retirement system or from another retirement system into Lasers, that's a different application where you're going to apply for a transfer, right? And then what happens is that once you apply for the transfer, we contact the transferring system and we get the information needed from that system. Once we have the information, we're going to send the information to you for you to either approve the transfer or not. And so those are going to be two different categories of purchasing service, which we'll cover a little bit later on in the presentation for you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Great explanation. I don't think that they have any other questions.
All right. So whenever you're ready, Wendy, you can discuss IBO with us.
Okay. So thanks again, Carlos. So I am going to discuss with you the initial benefit option, or IBO. And this is oftentimes when I have someone say, Wendy, I've never heard of such. I don't even know what this is. And so I go on to explain it to them that IBO is an optional type of retirement where it allows you, the member, to, when you're eligible for regular non-reduced retirement, you can receive a lump sum amount of money up front, equivalent of up to 36 times your maximum retirement benefit. So you can say, give me 36 times my maximum retirement benefit in a lump sum up front. However, you are going to reduce your benefit, your monthly retirement benefit, for the remainder of your life. And a lot of times people put on their earmuffs right then and they'll say, Wendy, you said reduced benefit. I don't want to hear anymore. I don't want it. Well, IBO is actually the absolute best option for some members. It does reduce your benefit, but there are certain situations. So you can elect to do IBO when you're eligible for a regular non-reduced retirement benefit. And then look at this. Remember, Carlos just spent a whole lot of time talking to you about the window for drop, the 3-year, 60-day window, and that you must get in within that first 60 days to participate for the full 36 months. And if you miss the 60-day window, you can still enter, but you can only participate in the amount of months left, right? And therefore, the balance of your drop account is only going to be times the number of months you participate. So if you only participate in 6 months of drop, they're only going to put your benefit in that drop account for 6 months, and the balance will be whatever is 6 times your benefit. Whereas with IBO, there is no window. Look, there is no participation window. Once you're eligible for regular non-reduced, you're eligible to do IBO as long as you haven't done drop, disability, or taken an actuarially reduced retirement. And you don't have to do it immediately. So remember, drop was like, okay, I'm going to continue to work while I save up to 36 months of retirement. Well, IBO is kind of like, okay, I'm going to leave and give me 36 times, 36 months of retirement up front and reduce my benefit. This is an example of what the IBO looks like. And so we're going to use the same member that Carlos just took you through drop, remember? So when Carlos was talking to you, this member went through drop. Now let's look at him, and he's not going to go through drop, but he's going to do the IBO. So he's 58 with 25 years of service. with his $4,300 a month FAC. We do the calculation. His maximum monthly benefit would be the $2687.50. So he can leave and he can take $2687.50 with no lump sum money, or he can say, give me 36 times my maximum benefit. So give me $96,750, and he reduces his benefit from the $2687.50 to $1945.37. And the note on the bottom states that the benefit reduction depends on the retiree's age and the amount of IBO selected. And if you look at the slide next, there's a chart and it has ages and dollar amounts. And so our member's 58 years old, and next to that is $7.63. So this benefit is reduced $7.63 for every $1,000 that the member takes in lump sum. So I said the member can take up to 36 times the maximum benefit, but he doesn't have to take that much, right? That's the maximum amount that he can take. He can, however, take less. Maybe he doesn't want $96,000 and to reduce his benefit to the $1945. Maybe he wants to take $45,000. That's all he needs. So what we would do is we would calculate his reduction based on taking 45,000, not 96. And so we would do 45 times 763. Carlos, you out there in the world can help me?
Yeah, $343.35.
$343.35?
Yeah.
Okay, and so we would subtract the $343.35, and that would give us a benefit of
$2,344.15.
So instead of taking 96,000 and reducing his benefit to 1945.37, he's going to take 45,000 and reduce his benefit to 2344.15. So he can't take more than this, but he can take less, and how much or how little he takes is directly going to correlate to how high or low his monthly benefit is. Remember when I showed you the online calculator? On that left-hand side, it said IBO, it said none, max, and then it said amount. So if he wanted to take the maximum, he would hit maximum, and that would calculate with the 96,750. If he wanted to do 45,000, 50,000, a different amount, he would hit amount and manually enter. Now, you do select this upon retirement. You select the amount that you want, and that is irrevocable. Once you select the amount, that is all that you can or cannot take. And so what happens to those IBO funds? Just like the drop funds, they are transferred over to the LASERS self-directed plan that is managed for us by Empower Retirement. This is the same financial institution that handles our deferred compensation if you participate. Whenever you retire, about 45 days from date of effective retirement date, we're going to transfer 80% of your funds to the self-directed plan. You have access to those funds if you choose. And then about 90 days later, we're going to transfer the remaining 20% over. Those funds are not going to be taxed until you withdraw, and they will only be taxed on the amount that you withdraw. So if those funds transfer over and you don't withdraw them for 5 years, you don't pay tax for 5 years. The 6th year, you say, give me $5,000, you pay tax on $5,000. And those funds will be in that LASERS self-directed plan, and you can manage them. Just like Carlos explained about drop, you can manage it. So you can leave your funds there, you can manage, you have access to withdraw them how you like, when you like. So there are some decisions that you need to think about when you're trying to decide, do I do drop or do I do IBO?
Hey, Wendy, quick question for you.
Yes.
Before you go on that slide. The question is, when IBO is selected, when does your reduced benefit begin?
Great question. So if you select an IBO with a reduced benefit, that reduced benefit begins at your first check. The reduction is calculated at the very beginning based on the amount that you take.
All right, thank you, Wendy.
And it's reduced for life. So some factors to decide, do I do drop or do I do IBO? How long do you plan on working for the state? Do you foresee any significant increases in salary? Remember, Carlos explained to you, when you enter drop at that point with your years and your salary up to that point. Any years added or salary, that's going to be a separate calculation added back on to that original drop benefit. So maybe you are going to get that very significant increase in salary and you want it to count in your retirement. So you might not want to enter drop. FAC consideration, are you trying to reach 100% of your salary? So 40 years times 2.5% equals 100%. Well, I don't know of any plan that Carlos and I have told you about that allows you to work for 40 years and then enter drop, right? Are you interested in a lump sum? Maybe you don't want it, maybe you do. How old will you be at the time of retirement? You know, what are the tax implications? Do you have access to the money? So you definitely want to do and have estimates run. You want to do different kind of comparisons. Someone asks me often, they say, Wendy, why would I select an IBO versus drop? And my answer is, well, maybe we have a member who was 55 years old and they were hired. So now they're 60 years old with 5 years of service. That's their first eligible date for retirement, right? So they have to decide, do I want to go into drop? If they go into drop, they're going to go into drop with only 5 years times their salary up to that point. That's only 12.5%. And so they would go into drop and they would work 3 years in drop and they wouldn't get any credit for the time that they were in drop, right? And then they would come out of drop, and if they wanted to get a supplemental, they would have to work additional years after drop. Whereas maybe this member doesn't go into drop and he just continues to work 5 to 10 more years. And then his benefit will be based on all of his years and his salary up to that point. He can still do IBO, and even though it reduces his benefit, it's not going to reduce it as much as if he had locked it in and gone into drop with only 5 years and not have gotten credit for those 3. Another one, really quick example, I had a Reg 1 member and she was 47 years old with 30 years of service credit. So she had to make her decision, right? And so she went into drop. And so she had her 30 years times her 2.5%. times she was at the time making a $55,000 a year salary. So she went into drop and her drop benefit was 75% of her $55,000 a year salary, right? She worked for 3 years in drop. She didn't get any credit for that. She came out of drop and she worked 10 years after drop. And she said, Wendy, I'm so excited. I'm about to retire with 100% of my salary, because she was certain 30 years pre-drop, 10 years after drop, that's 40 years, right? So that's 100%. That's not correct. She had already locked this in. 75% of her $55,000 a year salary, that was locked in. That was the benefit. So what was going to happen is she was now going to get a supplemental benefit for the 10 years that she worked after. And the part that I've left off that I haven't told you is now she was making $115,000 a year. She was absolutely devastated because she thought she was about to retire with $115,000 a year retirement benefit. She thought she was going to retire with 100% of that. She was absolutely devastated. It cost her, so to speak, about $3,200 a month. Most people's benefit isn't even $3,200 a month. Now, she's an exception, and I I want to say she didn't know she was going to work 13 more years. She didn't know she was going to double her income, but that's a situation where she could have not entered drop. She could have continued to work. She would have only had to work 40 years versus 43. Her benefit could have been calculated at 100% of her $115,000. She could have done IBO, and she could have taken a reduced benefit. And again, even though her benefit was reduced, it wasn't reduced as much as locking those first 30 years in at that $55,000 a year salary reduced it. So those are some decisions to think, drop versus IBO. Now let's talk about disability retirement. So in order to be eligible to apply for disability, you have to have 10 years of service at any age, and the disability must have occurred while you were in active state service. You cannot be eligible for any regular retirement. 20 years any age actuarially reduced is considered regular retirement. Therefore, if you have 20 years of service or more, you cannot apply for disability retirement. The benefit is calculated exactly the same as regular retirement. It just allows you to leave without penalty if you are disabled and cannot perform your current job duties. So you would submit an application to us along with your medical records. All parts of this application and medical records have to be received at AskLASERS within 10 days of the initial application submission. It goes to our board certified doctor who reviews it and gives a suggestion to our board. Our board then ultimately makes the decision. If you are approved, you must terminate service immediately, or you can go out on sick or annual leave in lieu of disability retirement. You will not get a disability benefit while you're on leave, and there will be no retroactive benefit paid. If you don't terminate service or go out on leave, then we'll consider you foregoing that disability and returning to active state service. If you are approved, then you can go get a job in the private industry. However, you will be bound to earnings limits that you have to report to AskLASERS. You do have to continue to certify the disability. And if you want to return to state service, you have to either return and forego the disability benefit altogether, or return for a 6-month trial period. And at the end of the 6 months, you can either say, I'm going to go back out on disability retirement, this didn't work, or I'm going to go ahead and continue working and forego my disability retirement. On that calculator, I talked to you about COLA, remember? So it was your first eligible dates, and then it said IBO, and then it said COLA. Let's talk about a COLA. I tell my members when I counsel them that the benefit numbers that they see on their paper, those are their numbers. They're not changing for the most part. The only way they're going to change is if there is a cost of living adjustment granted. And this is only possible when the employee experience account that's funded by those excess revenues that are generated by the AskLASERS investment contains sufficient monies to afford that increase. When those monies are sufficient, we go to legislature and we ask that the COLA be approved. If the COLA is approved, it's going to go into effect July 1 following that legislative approval. In order to be eligible to get that cost of living, that system generated cost of living on July 1, on June 30th of that year, you have to be 60 years old or older and have been receiving your benefit for at least 1 full year. So cost of living, a little bit of change in that benefit is possible, but it has to be granted by legislature and you have to be qualified for it. Now in 2009, they created something called the self-funded cost of living adjustment, or the self-funded COLA. And this is an election that you make upon retirement. It is irrevocable. And what it does, you take an actuarially reduced retirement benefit up front, so that once you meet requirements, you guarantee yourself a 2.5% increase every year for the rest of your life. That sounds great, right? I want to guarantee 2.5% increase every year for the rest of my life. However, I said self-funded and reduced. Let's take a look at it. Well, first of all, let's talk about who can get it. It is payable to you once you are 55 years old or older. It's going to be paid annually on your anniversary date of your retirement or your drop entry. Lasers strongly suggest that you get an estimate prior to electing this. If you retire and name your spouse your beneficiary, they will continue to get the increase. Non-spousal benefits will not. And here is an example. So we still have our 58-year-old member with 25 years of service with his $4,300 a month FAC, right? Remember his maximum monthly benefit, $2,687.50. He elects to take a COLA, the self-funded COLA. So we are going to reduce his benefit by $578.49. And instead of receiving this, he is going to receive that. His benefit is going to start at $2,109.01. Because he is over 55, on the anniversary of his retirement, he's going to get a 2.5% increase. It is going to take this member 10 to 12 years to get from here back to here, back to where he would have started. And then it's going to take him about another 8 to 10 years kind of to make up the money that he lost, so to speak, while he was trying to get back here. So basically, it's like, here, lasers, hold my money and give me a little bit each year. It's there. It's an option. You certainly can select it. I know 2 members that selected it. One member, I answered my phone and all I heard were sobs. And finally she caught her breath and she told me she was expecting to receive this. And she opened her check and it was this amount. She had selected self-funded COLA without knowing. She was devastated. My other member that selected it looked at me and she said, Wendy, I'm going to live to be 100 years old. This is going to pay off for me. She is still living. She's not 100. I hope that she makes it. So those are really the only ways that that monthly benefit can increase after retirement. With another exception, reemployed retirees. Because we all want to retire just to return back to work, correct? Well, it happens, and it happens for a multitude of reasons. Now, if you retire and you're receiving a benefit from lasers, and you go and get a job in any non-lasers eligible position, lasers does not need to know about it. You go get your job, get your lasers benefit. It can be in the private industry. It could be at teachers' retirement. It could even be at your same agency, but the position that you're working in is specifically not lasers eligible. We do not need to know. Only if you go back in a lasers eligible position is that going to possibly affect your retirement benefit. And in order to find out if it's lasers eligible or not, the human resource of the agency that you're going to work for, they are who would have to let you know. So if you're retired and you're getting a benefit from lasers and you do return to a lasers eligible position, you have to select one of a couple of different options. The first option is 50% earnings limit. So you go back to work, you continue to receive your monthly benefit, you do not pay contributions into lasers, you do not earn any service credit. You are, however, bound to earn 50% or less of the annual benefit that lasers is paying you in a fiscal year. So from July 1 to June 30, a fiscal year, you cannot earn more than 50% of the annual benefit that lasers is paying you. And it is your responsibility to monitor. And if you go over, you do have to pay lasers back dollar for dollar. And so, for instance, if you're getting paid $30,000 a year annually from lasers, you can continue to get that benefit, go back to work part-time. You can't earn more than $15,000 in that fiscal year. Sometimes people will call and say, how many hours a week can I work? And I say, I don't know how many, but no, really, seriously, it's not based on hours a week. It's that fiscal year. You know, if you want to work full time for however many months it takes you to earn that $15,000 and then not work for the rest of the fiscal year, you can do it however you'd like, but you have to keep up with it and you do owe lasers back if you go over. The second option is to regain lasers membership. So you've retired, you did not do drop or IBO, but you retired regular or actuarially reduced, which is also regular. And you're find another state job. You can return back to state employment. You repay Lasers back all of the benefit that we've paid you while you've been retired plus interest, and your service credit is restored as though you never retired. You become an active member, you start paying contributions, you start accruing service credit, and you work until you actually go ahead and retire. This is really good for some members who maybe were laid off and they were forced to take that actuarially reduced benefit because they didn't want to lose their insurance or they didn't want to have a break in service. So they went ahead and took the reduced benefit, and maybe 6 months, a year later, they found another state agency to hire them. So they were able to return back to state employment, repay Lasers, regain membership as though they had never retired, and pick up where they left off. And now they can work until they reach regular non-reduced retirement, right? So that's the second option. The third is suspension of benefit. And so you suspend your monthly benefit, you return back to state employment, there's no earnings limit, you start paying contributions into the system, you accrue leave, and if you work less than 36 months as a rehired retiree and you separate, well, then we're going to pick up the monthly benefit that we were paying you when you originally retired, and we will refund you a one-time lump sum of the contributions that you paid in while you're a rehired retiree. If you work 36 months or more as a rehired retiree, we will calculate a supplemental benefit. And so that calculation is going to be exactly like Carlos explained, that drop supplemental, right? It's going to be the same exact calculation. However, in order to get the supplemental benefit as a rehired retiree, you must work 36 months or more, whether you're a 36 or 60-month FACer. Remember, to get that supplemental after drop, you had to work 13 days. As a rehired retiree, to get that supplemental, 36 months. And so, like, the COLA is really the only way that you're going to change your benefit after retirement, other than returning back to state employment as a rehired retiree and working 36 months or more and having that supplemental benefit calculated and added in. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and I'm going to check in with Carlos, and I'm going to see if we had any questions about anything we've discussed up to this point, Carlos.
Yeah, Wendy, we did have a question. One member asked, can I do the IBO at any time or when I'm eligible for retirement?
So you can only do IBO when you become eligible for regular non-reduced retirement. And then you can do it anytime after that. So if you are eligible, so a regular 2-plan member, you cannot do IBO until you are 60 years old with 5 years of service or more, right? However, you do not have to elect on your 60th birthday to do IBO. You can continue to work 5 more years if you so chose, and then do IBO when you retire. But you cannot do it prior to your first eligible for non-reduced.
Thank you, Wendy.
You're
we
welcome.
have another question for you. You mentioned we had a member who accidentally selected the self-funded COLA.
Yes.
Do you know how our member accidentally selected the self-funded COLA? Is the application confusing?
So that's a great question. And at one time, that self-funded COLA box was on the retirement application, and apparently she didn't read what she was signing, and she went through and she just checked every box. The application has been changed, and in order to elect the self-funded COLA now, you have to specifically request it, and it's a supplemental part or piece of paper to add to the application. So it's not something that you can accidentally sign up for. It's a form that you have to specifically request and is separate from the application.
All right, thank you, Wendy. That's the only question we have for you.
Okay, great. So then you want to talk to us about that burning question of unused sick and annual leave, Carlos?
All right, thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
So like Wendy said, we're going to discuss both the unused annual and sick leave. So at the time of retirement, you may elect to receive additional benefits for any amount of unused annual and sick leave that you have. And with that leave, right, you're going to have the option to either convert that leave to years of service to increase your benefit, convert it to service credit, or take a lump sum value of that leave, right? Now, the lump sum value is not at your hourly rate. It's paid at something called an actuarial rate. We'll give you a few examples of it. Right? When a little bit later on in the presentation, we'll give you an example of an actuarial value, right? So the leave cannot be used to help meet your eligibility for retirement. That's a common question that we get where we'll have members saying, hey, I have 18 years and 2 years of leave. Can I use the leave on what they would call the front end to help me meet my retirement eligibility? Right, and the answer is no. Right, you can't use the leave before you've actually officially retired. But once you are eligible to retire, once you do retire officially, that's when you can have that leave applied towards your retirement benefit by either converting the leave to service credit or taking that lump sum value of the leave. Now, for members that retire out of state service, right, you're not going to be given credit for that leave unless you were eligible to retire before you ended your employment. So in this case, we'll have maybe some members who had 20 years of service, right, who met the actuarially reduced retirement eligibility, but they chose to wait until the regular retirement age. Those members are going to be given credit for the leave. If you're not eligible to retire when you leave state service, then you'll most likely end up losing that leave. If you are eligible to retire when you leave state service, regardless of how long it takes for you to retire, it could be 5 years, it could be 25 years, you'll be given credit for that leave. So ensure that your agency reports that unused leave balance to us when you leave state service. Now, the balance that's reported to us by your agency, it should not include any amounts that's paid to you by your agency, right? So most agencies will pay you 300 hours of annual leave at your hourly rate, right? At LASERS, you're getting credit for your unused leave. And so that 300 hours that they pay you, they shouldn't report that to us as part of your remaining leave balance, because you've already used that leave. So this slide just tells us how do we convert our leave to service credit. So we first convert our leave to days, right? And the way we convert our leave to days is we subtract 300 hours of annual leave that's paid to by our agency. We add the remaining balance of annual leave to our remaining balance of sick leave and divide by 8. That's going to give us our days. Now, to convert your days to service credit, you divide those days by 260 because 260 represents the number of work days during a calendar year. That's going to give us the 10th, and then we're going to round to the higher 10th. Here's an example for us, right? So in this example, we have our member that has $1,300 of annual leave and $800 of sick leave. 1,300 minus the 300 plus 800 divided by 8. That's going to give us 225 days, right? 225 days divided by 260 equals 0.86, but that rounds up to 0.9. So this is our unused leave conversion table. And we'll see that once you have between 1 and 26 days, you have a 10th of credit. Once you have between 235 and 260 days, you have a full year. And then once you have more than 260 days of leave, right, then you're starting to work on your next year of leave. There is no limit to the amount of leave that you can have applied for additional benefits, right? In addition, for members that have so much leave where they convert that leave and it causes them to exceed 100% of their FAC, we'll convert just enough to get you to that 100% cap, and then you'll be paid the rest of that leave in a lump sum value. So again, that takes us back to our first note. There's no limit to the amount of additional benefits, to the amount of leave that you can have applied for additional benefits. So again, these are our two choices. We can either convert our leave to service credit to increase our monthly retirement benefit, or we can elect to receive a lump sum value of that leave, which is paid at something called our actuarial rate, not at your hourly rate. Now, to determine the actuarial value of a lump sum payment, right, we multiply the additional annual benefit what a member would have received if they convert by something called the actuarial reserve factor. That actuarial reserve factor is based on the member's age at retirement. That factor is subject to change, and that factor is specific to every member's age in both years and months when they retire. And it's a factor that's based on the member's life expectancy. Here's an example for us of converting the leave versus taking a lump sum payment. So in this example, our member is age 58 with the $4,300 FAC, 225 days of leave or 9/10 of service credit. So to convert the leave, right, we use that same retirement formula that we use to calculate all retirement benefits. Years of service times accrual rate times FAC, that's going to add another $96.75 to our benefit. To determine the value of the lump sum, we take the additional annual amount that a member would receive, and we multiply that by this person's actuarial reserve factor, giving us here, in this example, $12,672.99. Right. So this is a choice that many of us will have to choose from, right? Many of us will have to make, right? Do we convert the leave to increase our monthly benefit, or do we take the one-time lump sum value? Well, I always like to say that there's not a right or wrong answer. It's always dependent on what's right or wrong for you. But our role is to educate you on some of the tax implications of taking lump sum payments. So all lump sum payments are subject to 20% mandatory federal income tax withholdings. In addition, there is the possibility of a 10% federal early withdrawal penalty if you receive that payment prior to the age of 59.5, right? Now, there are a couple of exceptions to that 10% federal early withdrawal penalty. Here's a list of those exceptions, right? So if you separate from state service in the year that you reach age 55 or older, you're going to be exempt from that 10% federal early withdrawal penalty. Public safety officers. That includes correctional officers, wildlife agents, bridge police, peace officers. Most people in those hazardous duty retirement plans, right? If you're the age 50 or older, you're going to be exempt from that 10% federal withdrawal penalty, as well as if you're younger than the age of 55 when you retire, you could actually roll that payment over to another qualifying retirement account and wait until after the age of 59.5 to make a withdrawal from the plan that you rolled the funds over to, and then you'll be able to avoid that 10% tax penalty. This slide shows us what we need to do to roll those funds over. So we don't have to pay any mandatory tax withholdings. We would submit Form 2-01A, the authorization for direct rollover, and that must be submitted to your financial institution to accept the rollover. Payment of leave for certain unclassified officials, elected officials appointed by the governor and confirmed by the Senate, have certain limitations on their use of leave. These officials should consult with the HR professionals at their agency as to how their leaves will be certified to placers. Next up, we have our purchase of service credit. So we're going to briefly discuss the different types of purchases that we have, things like repaying a refund, purchasing airtime, doing a transfer from one retirement system and lose that into another. We can do a reciprocal. You can purchase leave without pay. We also allow members to purchase military service. This is just a handful of the many different types of purchases that we have that are available for you. And so there's a more detailed list found in our Members Guide to Retirement. We're going to only discuss a few of them for us, but first let's look at the process. The process begins with you, the member, right? The first thing that you want to do is submit the application If there's an actuary fee involved with that application, that's going to be listed on the application. So you'll submit that application and also submit the fee. And information comes to us here at Lasers. We review the application, and then comes time for the calculation. So either us here at Lasers, or we're going to send the request to our actuary to calculate. Once the calculation has been performed, we're going to provide you, the member, with an invoice. The invoice is going to list the amount that is going to cost you to purchase that additional service credit, right? Once you have that invoice, you are under no obligation to make that purchase, but if you choose to make that purchase, payment can be made in following before the by any combination of the following before the invoice expires, right? Personal check, cashier's check, certified check, money order, or a rollover from a qualified plan. Earlier during the presentation, we had questions about how do you transfer money in from TIA Craft or VALIC into Lasers to pay to purchase service. Well, this is a way. You submit the application, you have an invoice, then you contact your financial institution to send that money directly to Lasers to pay for that invoice. If your invoice expires, you must reapply and pay a new calculation fee. We recommend that members apply for purchasing service credit at least 6 months in advance before applying for retirement. That purchase process can be a very lengthy process, right? And so the sooner you have that done, the smoother your retirement transition can be for you. Another type of purchase that we have that's very common is repaying a refund, right? Members must have 18 months of non-refunded service credit in order to apply. This is for members who have money in Lasers, then they leave state service, and they pull the money out of Lasers, and then they come back to state service. They previously pulled that money out, didn't realize that those years that they have previously followed that money out of the system, and now they want to restore those years by applying to repay a refund. To apply for that repayment of refund, you're going to submit form number 2-11, the application for repayment of refunded services. The cost is always going to be the refunded amount plus the actuarially assumed rate of interest, which is compounded annually from the date of the refund until the date that the payment is made. Another more common type of purchase that we have is something called airtime, right? And we can purchase up to 5 years of service credit in 1-year increments. Now, to be eligible to apply for airtime, we must have 5 years of service credit in Lasers to apply for an airtime purchase. The airtime can be used for benefit computation only. It can be used for benefit computation and retirement eligibility. And it could also be used for if you've previously purchased benefit computation only, and now you want that airtime to change your eligibility for retirement, then you can purchase, you can upgrade that benefit computation only purchase and apply to a retirement eligibility and benefit computation purchase.
Carlos.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a member asking, how many years can you buy, and do you have to buy them all at once?
Okay, great question. So you can purchase up to 5 years of airtime, right? And you don't have to buy them all at once, right? You can purchase them in 1-year increments, right? Up to 5 years. So if you wanted to purchase 1 year this year and then another year next year, as long as you haven't retired, you can purchase the remaining 5 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, to apply to purchase airtime, that's going to be form number 2-07, the application for purchase of service. And there are a few things that we do want to discuss with you about purchasing airtime for retirement eligibility, right? And then retiring earlier than you would have been eligible to retire without that purchase. So if you do purchase airtime for retirement eligibility and you retire earlier than you would have been eligible to retire without that purchase, those members are required to pay the or may be required to pay the increase in the employer's share of the health insurance premiums. Now, be mindful that the 20-year at any age actuarially reduced is considered a regular retirement eligibility. And so that comes into effect in these two examples that we want to show you really quickly. So here's an example for us. This is an example of a Reg 1 member, age 40 with 15 years of service credit. So currently this member is not eligible to retire, right, under the Reg 1 plan or any plan that we have. Right, so if our member purchases 5 years of airtime for eligibility and benefit computation to retire immediately with 20, this is an example of a member who retired earlier than they would have been eligible to retire without the purchase. And then this member is going to be required to pay the increase in the employer's health insurance costs, and they're going to pay that increase until the age that they would have met retirement without that purchase, which is 10 years at the age of 60, because that's the retirement criteria that they fall under if they didn't make that purchase. Here's another example for us. This is an example of a member age 55 with 23 years of service credit in the Reg 1 plan. So our member is currently eligible to retire without the purchase. So if our member purchases 2 years so they can retire without the reduction, our member is not going to be required to pay the increase in the employer's share of the health insurance premiums. And then finally, we want to briefly discuss survivor benefits with you, just making you aware that as a state employee, there is a survivor benefit packet or a survivor benefit that may be payable to both you, to your surviving spouse and or minor children. Right? Survivor benefits are based on the retirement plan. However, monthly benefits may be payable to a minor child and a surviving spouse. If you don't have any minor children or a surviving spouse eligible to receive a monthly survivor benefit, what we then do is refund your employee contributions to your named beneficiary. For members that don't have a named beneficiary on file with us, what we do is we refund the retirement contributions to your estate. And then it's up to the administrator of your estate to claim those retirement contributions. That's why we always encourage members to always keep an up-to-date designation of beneficiary form with us. In the unfortunate event that our members pass away, we want to ensure that we're paying the correct person or people the survivor benefits, as well as we're going to encourage you to submit copies of both Social Security cards and birth certificates for your beneficiaries when you submit that designated beneficiary form. There is a detailed list of survivor benefit information found on our Members Guide to Retirement. All right, so on this slide, you're going to see the checklist. This is a great checklist that you can use to kind of help you prepare for retirement. Just remember, once you're within 18 months of being eligible to retire, then you want to submit, you want to get an estimate. That's when you want to start looking at numbers, right? You're always welcome to view those educational videos on our website. You can submit those personal documents to us at any time. Things like copies of your birth certificate, copies of birth certificates and Social Security cards for your beneficiary. We encourage everyone, if you've previously been divorced, to submit that judgment divorce as early as possible. That way, that's one thing less that you'll need to do when you finally decide to apply for retirement. And then once you're within 6 months of being eligible to retire, that's when you'll contact your human resource department to apply for retirement or enroll in drop. We're going to encourage you to stay connected. We're on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel that shows a lot of our videos, a lot of our meetings. We're on Twitter. And we appreciate you all for being a part of the presentation. Spread the word. Make your fellow coworkers aware that this is a free service that we're offering, because everyone can use a little more information about their retirement. So up next, what we want to do is maybe go back to Wendy to see if we had any question about anything that we've covered so far.
We did have a question, and it says the only option is to buy years for eligibility and computation, not only for computation.
Okay, so there is the option to buy years for either eligibility and computation, the type that's going to both change your eligibility date for retirement, and increase your benefit, or to buy airtime for benefit computation only. The benefit computation only service credit, that's only going to increase your retirement benefit, and it's not going to change your first eligible date to retire.
Because as a Reg 2, 3, or 4, I have to have an age, right?
Well, it depends. So yes, for the regular retirement, for the unreduced retirement, you do have to meet the age, right? But if you're looking for the 20-year retirement, then that would get you a little bit closer to the 20 years, which, as we've previously discussed, would probably offset the reduction for you, making you further away from the age that you need to apply for retirement.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So up next is Ms. Shannon Wheeler with Empower Retirement, and she's going to discuss both the LASERS self-directed plan and Louisiana Deferred Compensation. Shannon, whenever you're ready, we'll send you live.
I'm ready when you are. All right, now if everyone can hear me, my name is Shannon Wheeler and I'm with Empower Retirement, and I'm here to first talk to you about the LASERS self-directed plan account. So let's give you a little background and benefits of this. In 2000, during the 2003 Louisiana legislative session, LASERS sponsored a bill that would allow an alternative plan to invest deferred retirement option program, DROP, and initial benefit option, IBO funds. Legislation was passed and the LASERS self-directed plan was created effective January 1st, 2004. So the benefits of this are assets are held in trust for the benefit of plan participants, and investment options have competitive fees and are monitored quarterly. They're monitored by the Plan Advisory Committee and the independent investment consulting firm. So what is the LASERS self-directed plan account? This is considered a Section 401A of the Internal Revenue Code. This plan was designed to receive DROP and IBO funds and is available for LASERS DROP and IBO members only. And again, only DROP and IBO funds are available to be deposited into the LASERS self-directed plan account. Withdrawals are exempt from state income taxes, and Empower Retirement is required to withhold 20% from your requested distribution to cover federal tax liability. Once you finish DROP and come out of IBO, your money is automatically sent over to Empower, deposited into your LASERS self-directed plan account, and it is put into the Stable Value Option Fund, which is the most conservative fund possible. From there, you will receive information from Empower. You will also be receiving a phone call from your retirement plan advisor so we can talk to you about your different options when it comes to investments. We have target date funds, mutual fund, collective trust funds. You'll see small cap, large cap, mid cap. So there are a lot of different options for you to choose. You can find the complete list of your investment options and additional information on your plan's website. So how do I access my account? You will receive statements either by mail or online quarterly. You can go to louisianadcp.com, click on register, and register to see your account online. If you already have a Louisiana Deferred Compensation Plan account, then you should be able to see both your Louisiana Deferred Comp and your LASERS self-directed plan monies on that one site. You can call the 800 number, which is 800-937-7604. And it is always very important to review your investment strategy annually to ensure it is still appropriate for your goals. So now let's look at the fees. The only fee charged are fund-related fees. No explicit administration fee, no contingent deferred sales charge, no mortality and expense fee, and no no contract maintenance charge. Now here, excuse me, here is one of the #1 things everyone wants to know about: withdrawals. When can I withdraw my money and how? So when would be in retirement. Lasers will issue a termination date to empower retirement. Once we receive that termination date for your Laser self-directed plan account, you can take a lump sum. You can do payments for life. You can do a partial lump sum. You can do periodical payments, and you can also do rollovers. Now, if you pass away, your beneficiaries will receive your remaining balance. So when we look at withdrawals, the next thing everyone wants to know about is taxes. What are the taxes going to be? When you withdraw, withdrawals are exempt from the Louisiana state income taxes. It is tax deferred until withdrawal. It is taxed as ordinary income at the time of withdrawal, and the IRS mandatory federal tax withholding of 20% upon withdrawal. But always remember to be cautious. A rollover to another plan will cause the loss of a state tax exemption. Then we look at withdrawals made before age 59.5, which may be subject to the 10% penalty tax. Now, there are 2 exemptions for the 10% tax penalty. The first one is the Pension Protection Act of 2006, which states that qualified public safety employees in governmental defined benefit plans are exempt from this 10% penalty if separated from state or local service on or after the employee reaches age 50. This would include our correctional officers and other agents with arrest powers, such as our wildlife agents, bridge police, public safety officers, and peace officers. The second exemption is separation from service in or after the year you turn age 55. What is the Empower Retirement Advisory Service? This is something you have access to in your Laser self-directed plan account. This is a behavioral-based approach for choosing your investment style. It provides investment advisory tools and services, and it offers 2 different levels of assistance. So the first level is called the My Total Retirement. This is a personalized retirement strategy based on your financial picture that is professionally implemented and managed that can address your savings, investing, and retirement income needs. It has customized spending assistance to help retirement income last longer. Your second option is the online advice. This is fund-specific recommendations to help you validate or adjust your already developed strategy. What are the advantages of the My Total Retirement? Recommendations are implemented and managed specifically for your unique financial situation. Retirement spending strategies to help you make the most of your savings. One-on-one access to a team of investment advisor representative for employees to discuss their strategies. And retirement strategies that may consider guaranteed income products. So how do you contact us? We have an office at 9100 Bluebonnet Center Boulevard, Suite 203 in Baton Rouge. You can call our 800 number, which is 800-937-7604. You may go to louisianadcp.com, click up on Contact Us in the upper right-hand corner. That takes you to the map and shows you who your retirement plan advisor is, and it also gives you a picture of your retirement plan advisor that you can click on and email or call them. Or you can reach out to me, Shannon Wheeler, at 318-541-5528, or you can email me at shannon.wheeler@empower-retirement.com. Do we have any questions about the Laser self-directed plan account?
Shannon, we do have someone ask, what is the maximum amount that you can contribute a year?
As far as the LASERS self-directed plan account goes, the only way to contribute to this account is if you are doing drop or IBO.
Okay. And then, so the next question is, can you access both accounts on the same web page?
Yes, you should be able to access both accounts on the same web page. However, if you do not see both accounts, contact your retirement plan advisor and we will help get that set up for you to where you can see them both on the same page.
But you have to have participated in drop or have done IBO to have both accounts.
Yes, if you want to see both your drop and your deferred comp, you would have to be in both of those accounts to see them both on the same website.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So now if we're ready, let's talk about the Louisiana Public Employees Deferred Compensation Plan and the top reasons to participate. So the Louisiana Public Employees 457 Deferred Compensation Plan, this is a powerful tool to help you reach your retirement dreams. As a supplemental to other retirement benefits or savings that you may have, this voluntary plan allows you to save and invest extra money for retirement tax deferred. Not only will you defer taxes immediately, but you may also build extra savings consistently and automatically. Select from a variety of investment options and learn more about saving and investing for your financial future. So now let's look at the ways to contribute to your deferred compensation plan. You can either do pre-tax and or after-tax Roth. If you choose pre-tax, this reduces taxes now and it's not counted as taxable income. Contributions and any earnings taxed as ordinary income when withdrawn, usually at retirement. If you chose the after-tax Roth, these are made with after-tax dollars, making earnings tax-free. Your distribution is income tax-free if you are at least 59.5 and eligible for a distribution from your plan, and you withdraw your Roth contributions and any earnings after holding the account at least 5 taxable years. Participation does not change your current taxable income. You may also be eligible for a tax credit of up to $1,000 depending upon your income. So now let's look at our contribution limits. The first thing we need to know that the minimum to contribute to the deferred compensation plan is $10 a pay period. In 2022, the maximum contribution amount is 100% of your includable compensation or $20,500, whichever is less. Participants in the plan have 2 different opportunities to catch up and contribute more during the final years of their career. The special catch-up allows participants in the 3 calendar years prior to normal retirement age to contribute more to the plan, up to double the annual contribution limits, which is $42,000 in 2022. The additional amount that you may be able to contribute under the special catch-up option will depend upon the amounts that you were eligible to contribute to previous years but did not. In order to find out if you are eligible for the special catch-up, please contact your retirement plan advisor. There will be a form that needs to be filled out to find out if you are eligible for this special catch-up. Also, participants turning age 50 or older in 2022 may contribute an additional $6,500. You may not use your special catch-up provisions and the age 50 plus catch-up provisions in the same calendar year. The amount you contribute will be automatically taken out of each paycheck and deposited into your 457 account. Always remember, if you utilize both the traditional and Roth contributions together, they must not exceed the annual contribution limits. So again, your annual contribution limits for 2022, if you can do $20,500. If you are eligible for the special catch-up, that's $42,000. And if you are 50 or older, you can do a total of $27,000. Now let's look at the potential savings growth. Again, this is easy savings with automatic payroll deductions. This will bridge the gap between the pension plan and what you really need for retirement. And retirement planning can be done on your own or with a retirement plan advisor. You can contribute more during drop. So once you go into the drop plan, AskLASERS quits holding out that contribution. You can turn around and increase your deferred comp contribution by that amount because you're already used to not having it. So continue to make that money work for you. You can also deposit leave hours at retirement. You may deposit the first 300 hours of accumulated leave into your deferred compensation plan account. However, with the 300 hours, you must stay within your annual contribution limits. With an example of that is the annual contribution limit for anyone over 50 is $27,000. If you tell me that I'm going to retire this year and you've only put in $2,000, that means you can take of that 27, you can take 25,000 of your 300 hours and put into deferred comp because you always want to stay again at that contribution limit. Now, as far as accumulated leave, which is over and above your 300 hours, all of that can be rolled into your deferred compensation plan account. So remember, your 300 hours must stay within the annual contribution limits, but your accumulated leave, it doesn't matter how much that is, which is the amount of leave over and above the 300 hours, all of that can be rolled into your deferred comp if you choose. You can purchase service credits with your deferred compensation plan account. It is tax-free, and you use your deferred compensation plan dollars to purchase time in AskLASERS. So what happens is you get your invoice from AskLASERS, you contact your retirement plan advisor. We have paperwork that needs to be filled out on our side. We get that all filled out, and if you have the full dollar amount in your account, we send all the paperwork to AskLASERS. If you do not have the full dollar amount to cover that invoice, then you will need to send a separate check for the difference to make sure that you get it covered. You can do account consolidation. So if you have any outside accounts from previous employers, be it a 401k, 403b, an IRA, you can contact your retirement plan advisors to see if that money is eligible to transfer over into your deferred compensation plan account. Just like with the AskLASERS self-directed plan account, your Louisiana deferred compensation plan account also is eligible with the Empower Retirement Advisory Services. Again, this is a comprehensive solution offered by Advised Assets Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Your two options are, number one, My Total Retirement, a personalized retirement strategy based on your financial picture that is professionally implemented and managed that can address your savings, investing, and retirement income needs. It has customized spending assistance to help retirement income last longer. And again, your second option is the online advice, which gives fund-specific recommendations to help you validate or adjust your already developed strategies. Let's look at a couple of advantages of the My Total Retirement. Recommendations are implemented and managed specifically for your unique financial situation. Retirement spending strategies to help you make the most of your savings, and one-on-one access to a team of investment advisor representative for employees to discuss their strategy. Let's look at the advisory service fees, and this fee structure is the same for the Louisiana Deferred Compensation Plan and your AskLASERS self-directed plan account. So if you chose the online advice, there is no additional cost to you. If you chose the My Total Retirement, your annual cost would be any dollar amount up to $100,000 would be multiplied by 0.45%. any dollar amount. The next 150,000 would be 0.35. The next 150 is 0.25, and over 400,000 is 0.15. So let's look at an example. If you have an account balance of $10,000 and you chose the online advice, there is no additional cost to you. However, if you chose the My Total Retirement, you're looking at $45 per year. If you had a $20,000 account, again, online advice, no additional cost, the My Total Retirement is $90 per year. It is always recommended that you have a conversation with your retirement plan advisor to see which of these would best suit your needs. We also give Move to Spend Down to help you see which of your accounts that you have, which is the best to start drawing down to make your money last you through retirement. So the next three questions we get all the time are, how much do I need to save? How do I invest my funds? And when can I retire? So how much do I need to save depends on how much money are you looking for retirement income. How do I invest my funds? That's going to depend on how long are you planning on working. And when can I retire? That's going to be based on what kind of income you're looking for, what kind of investments you're going to have, and that's going to also help you decide when you can retire. So again, there's no penalty on distributions prior to age 59 and a half in the 457 plans. You have local representatives. We cover the entire state of Louisiana. We have a representative in New Orleans, Lafayette, Baton Rouge. I cover Alexandria in the central Louisiana area, and we also have someone in Shreveport. You can contact us at 800-937-7604. Or you can contact myself and I'll help you find the representative that's right for you. Shannon Wheeler at 318-541-5528. Shannon.Wheeler@empower-retirement.com. And always remember, every time or anytime you set up a meeting with your retirement plan advisor, there is no charge for this meeting. And you can meet I recommend meeting at least every 6 months to a year to make sure that everything is still in line with what you need it to be. So always remember the top reasons to participate. You can do pre-tax and or after-tax Roth savings. You have potential savings growth. You can contribute more during drop. You can deposit leave hours. You can purchase service credits, do account consolidation, Empower Retirement Advisory Service. There's no penalty on distributions prior to age 59 and a half in your 457 plan, and all your representatives are local. So then the next question would be, how do I enroll? What do I do next? So to enroll online, you're going to go to louisianadcp.com, click on About Your Plan, and enroll now. What I would firmly suggest is that you get in touch with your retirement plan advisors, because there is some groups that will need a group code in that retirement plan advisor, and sometimes your HRs have that code for you. Any questions for the Louisiana Deferred Compensation Plan account?
So we did have a couple of questions. Someone did want to know, what is your includable compensation?
Your includable compensation, 100% when they talk about your contributions, where you can do 100% of your includable compensation or that dollar amount, that's 100% of what you make.
Okay. And then someone else had a really great question, and they said that they don't understand the options for rolling unused leave over. So you say that you can roll the money that you get paid from your agency for the 300 hours. That can be rolled into the deferred comp. However, it goes against your annual contribution limits.
Correct.
but then you also say that you can roll the lump sum over from lasers, and that doesn't go towards the limitation. Can you please explain that?
Okay, so the 300 hours comes from your agency. And since it is coming from your agency, it has the contribution limit connected to it. So whatever amount you contributed that year up to the point when you get ready to retire that year, we're going to subtract how much you contributed that year from the contribution limit and tell you how much you can roll over. When it comes to the excess leave, that comes from lasers. So that's considered a rollover. And anytime you do a rollover, there is no contribution limit on the amount that can be rolled into your deferred compensation plan. And always remember, on the rollover and the depositing of the 300 hours, those are non-taxable events until you get ready to take the money out. Then you will be taxed at that point. But the difference is 300 hours comes from your agency, excess leave comes from lasers.
So because the 300 hours comes from the agency, that's considered income.
That is correct. Well, they're both going to be,
considered income that I'm deferring.
Yes, correct. Just like your contribution that comes from your agency sends us your contributions. The 300 hours is just like that.
So the difference lies in who the payer of the money is.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Shannon, I think that is all of the questions that we have for now.
All right.
All right, well, thank you, Shannon. So up next is going to be our Social Security video. We're going to play a small Social Security video that's going to cover both those two laws that you may have heard about that could impact you receiving the Social Security benefit, the windfall elimination and the government pension offset. So yeah, without further ado, we'll go ahead and send those videos for you. And we'll be right back after this short video.
Hi, I'm Lainey Sanders, and thank you for joining me as I present information on federal Social Security offsets. In most cases, employees of the state of Louisiana who are members of AskLASERS are not required to pay Social Security tax. However, if you are entitled to a Social Security benefit, either your own from private sector employment or a spouse's or widower's benefit, that benefit may be reduced because of the windfall elimination provision or possibly eliminated because of the government pension offset. It is important to understand that your AskLASERS benefit will not be reduced, but you should be prepared for a reduction in your Social Security benefits. Let's discuss these federal laws, the Windfall Elimination Provision, or WEP, and Government Pension Offset, or GPO, in more detail to explain how you may be affected. Both WEP and GPO are designed to offset the amount of Social Security benefits paid to those eligible to receive some other type of public pension, in this case, your AskLASERS retirement. The Windfall Elimination Provision, or WEP, does not apply to spouses or widowers benefits. It applies to a benefit you earned because of your private sector employment. A modified benefit formula is used to calculate your Social Security benefit amount if you get a AskLASERS pension, resulting in a lower Social Security benefit. This is how it works. Social Security benefits are based on the worker's average monthly earnings adjusted for inflation. Average earnings are separated into 3 amounts, and then these amounts are multiplied using 3 factors. This determines the full Social Security benefit. If you receive a LASERS pension, the first amount of the average earnings is multiplied by a reduced factor, resulting in a reduced Social Security benefit. There are many variables in calculating Social Security benefits, so we encourage you to make an appointment with the Social Security office at least 3 months before you reach the age of 62. They can answer your questions and calculate your reduced benefit. You may be able to avoid the Social Security offset if you meet one of the following criteria. You were age 62 or disabled before 1986, or you qualified for a LASERS retirement benefit, including a reduced benefit, by having worked at least 10 years before September 1st, 1985, or you have at least 30 years of substantial earnings in a job where you paid Social Security taxes. If you have between 21 and 29 years of substantial earnings, you will not be subject to the full reduction. The government pension offset, or GPO, affects the Social Security benefit paid to you based on earnings of your deceased spouse if you also receive a pension from a government agency, such as LASERS. Your Social Security benefit may be completely eliminated because you receive a government pension. So if you are receiving a LASERS pension and are eligible for a survivor's benefit from Social Security, 2/3 of your LASERS monthly pension amount will be deducted from the amount of the survivor's Social Security benefit. This results in a reduced or even eliminated survivor benefit. For example, if you are eligible for a survivor's benefit of $500 per month from Social Security and you receive a monthly LASERS pension of $600, 2/3 of that, or $400, must be deducted from your Social Security survivor benefits. The amount you will receive is $100 per month from Social Security. You may be able to avoid the government pension offset if you meet one of the following criteria. You were eligible to retire before December 1982, and you meet all of the requirements for Social Security spouse's benefits that were in effect in January 1977. You were eligible to retire before July 1st, 1983, and were receiving half of your support from your spouse. Once you have retired, LASERS can provide you with a letter indicating the date of your first retirement eligibility, which you can submit to the Social Security Administration. Please submit a written request to LASERS for this information. As a LASERS member and future retiree, you may be entitled to Medicare coverage if you have paid a Medicare tax or you are the spouse or former spouse of an individual who has paid Medicare taxes. For questions regarding Medicare eligibility, please contact the Senior Health Insurance Information Program, known as SHIP, at the Louisiana Department of Insurance or the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. For all other information and questions about Social Security offsets, please contact the Social Security Administration directly or visit their website for more information. For many years, the LASERS Board of Trustees has considered the reduction or elimination of the federal offsets as a significant board issue. The board has voted to support current federal legislation that would change or repeal the offsets, in addition to annual resolutions passed by the Louisiana legislature to memorialize Congress to eliminate or reduce the WEP and GPO. LASERS continues to track proposed legislation and provides updates to members as changes occur. Check the LASERS website for details on legislation and additional information on the Social Security offsets. RSCA also monitors state and federal legislation and is committed to the elimination of the offsets. Information and resources can be found on their website, www.rseala.org. In addition to your LASERS retirement, Medicare and Social Security can be important components in completing your retirement plans. Please make sure you are aware of the federal pension offsets and prepare for these reductions. Thank you.
thank you. So that's going to end the presentation for the day. We appreciate all of your attendance. Now, as a reminder, this presentation is not recorded for distribution, so you're not going to be able to log out and then log in later and see this presentation. However, as long as you remain logged in, then you always have access to this presentation, so you can pause, rewind. Maybe you want to go back and see some of the parts that you missed, you can do that as well. Yeah, so that'll be the end of it for us. So for Shannon, Wendy, and myself, we want to thank you guys for attending. So thank you and bye, and may you have a great rest of the day. Thank you.